Mm-hmm. You didn't ask me what I'm sipping on.
Oh, what are you sipping on?
I got a Coca-Cola Classic, and I got a big jug of water, too. So it
Nice,
should be
nice.
good for the stream. I need a juice, though. Anyway, that's 10 seconds. There we go. Welcome to Geeky Geezers, everybody. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. It's my co-host, PaPa Pacelli. Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Who's in the Netters Network? I got a hi, sweetie.
Yep.
This feels like a night. People are not. I feel like this is going to be a light night for some reason. Is there something going on? Is this Oscar night?
I don't know. You'd have to
Is that
ask
tonight? I
deleted
don't know.
scenes. I don't know.
He would know. I know he was doing his worst of the year thing earlier. He might still be wrapping that up. But have a great show, geezers. Hope everyone has a great week ahead. I do too, Big Al. Let's have a nice week. Let's all have a nice week. And if you don't have a nice week, at least buy yourself a milkshake or something. Okay,
There
treat
you
yourself
go.
to something nice because this is, Oscars are next week. Okay, Matt and Nui, welcome. I don't know if I see Rose Fire in here. I meant to comment on her thing. She was big into a show called Fear Street in the 90s. And I said I was an 80s kids. We had Tales from the Dark Side.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a good old day someday. You remember Tales from the Dark Side?
Yes. In fact, unless I'm mistaken, the gentleman we're going to be talking about at the beginning of the show was in an episode of Tales from the Dark Side.
Oh, for the love of Pete.
Pretty sure.
We should have done a good old days for Tales
of
the Dark Side.
Fan 12, welcome. Or is that 012? I don't know how you brand yourself. I don't want to misbrand you, but welcome, Final Fantasy fan.
I got to upload a file. I should have done this before the stream.
Oh,
what am I doing? My PDF. My PDF with all the lovely pictures.
There you go.
Anyway, Oscars are next week. Okay, I will not be watching. I think my earlier prediction will not be coming true, though. I think if you say a certain thing, if you take certain sides probably against a certain war, you'll get into trouble in Hollywood. I think they finally put the brakes on something. So I do not think that's going to be happening, even though I predicted at the beginning of it was one of my predictions for 2024 would probably happen. We'll find out for certain next week, but I now am changing my mind, and I think that there will not be comments against a certain country that's in the Middle East. I think we are not going to see that at the Oscars. I think they're
what I'm starting to get the impression of as I look at social media is there's a lot more people that would be siding with Germany back in the 1930s than I would have ever imagined would be the case.
There are people living today that if the scenario was they were in that scenario, we know what side they'd be on.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this. I mean, we always say, of course, there are differences between peoples and cultures, but I think fundamentally humans are the same. And, you change the scenarios enough,
Yep.
certain things can even happen in this country, which we never want to see happen.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we see too much of it already happening. Hashtag Gina was right.
Gina. Well, we'll see how her lawsuit bears out. So many lawsuits. We're going to have another one to talk about against Disney.
Yep.
This one's kind of sad. I was careful about the picture I chose. I chose an item I had at this restaurant rather than showing a picture because I realize this is a lawsuit, but I feel bad this person had to die as a result of frequenting that restaurant. But we'll get to that later. Good evening, Agent Boomer. Last call. Hello, Netters Network. Well, welcome everybody.
Welcome, David.
Well, I don't know. Let's go ahead and do the add to the stage. I put new earmuffs on my headset because my old earmuffs were becoming rotting and tattered, and basically it was time they went, and I bought some more from Amazon. They were kind of small, but I fit them on here, so we'll see how I do throughout the stream. I think I'm going to buy puffier ones though later. But can you hear me okay though? Do I
can hear you just fine.
All right. Yeah. I actually have a extra headset in case this one ever goes kaput. I do have a spare one I can use too.
Good.
It's always good to have a backup. Always have a backup plan. Also have backup plans when if you're ever in school and you have to do a presentation, have backup plans. Do not rely on the internet if you have a presentation. Save a PDF of it. If you have something online like a Prezi, I used to do, say, PDFs of the Prezi in case the internet was out in the room. I could at least use the Prezi.
Yeah.
I mean, the PDF. Here we go. Whoa, look at this. Look at all the news.
Yeah.
Funny enough, though, if you're the EA, the little cross-site against Star Wars, we'll talk about that in a bit. I am going to say, if you are a fan of Star Wars video games, you should be in good spirits now because we recently had the re-release of Star Wars Dark Forces.
Yes, but we also got the notification that some other projects that were in the works are being canceled.
Some newer projects, yeah. But also Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 Remastered are coming out in a couple weeks, being made by the same team that did the Tomb Raider remasters. So we'll see how those turn out, but they're even adding some stuff to them, like you can play in Jabba's Palace now in this new version. So
Interesting.
I don't know. It might be good. Like I said, I don't know if this would be your cup of tea, Troy, but it's going to be on Steam. And they used to comment that someone made a review that this almost felt like they made a game out of playing with Star Wars vehicles and action figures. And they
I
based
like
the
that.
game on.
I like that. Yeah.
And you could play as Luke Skywalker in it. And no sequel trilogy nonsense.
What's interesting too is I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, and sometimes I'll go to them thinking that they're like playthroughs or something. What they actually are is they're using footage from Battlefront and stuff like that to do like little funny videos, and they'll do voiceovers and stuff like that. Some of it's pretty good.
Oh, that's funny, yeah. Zootopia, welcome.
Oh, Zootopia, good to see you.
Netters Network. Jesse Guajardo, looks like everybody's spot. Lester. San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, welcome.
Yep.
A bit like Vin Diesel there.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm sorry, I've been Riddick obsessed lately because I realized one of my fan favorite properties have not been ruined by the woke. I think Riddick is still safe.
So far, yeah.
Riddick is still safe. We'll see. I got the Pitch Black Blu-ray from Arrow Video. I got it on sale on Amazon, and it even came with a remastered version of the animated movie Dark Fury. So like a 30-minute animated short with Riddick, and Vin Diesel does the voice. It was done by Peter Chung, the guy that did those Eon Flux cartoons for MTV. I don't know if you remember those.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of neat because Riddick is going up, the villains he's going up against remind you of the villains you'd see on Eon Flux. So it was kind of funny seeing them in the Riddick universe. But
interesting.
All right, so we got we're no good old days tonight. We got too many news stories to cover, but we'll be having good old days hopefully soon. But tonight, maybe a sad good old days because we're going to reminisce about comedian Richard Lewis. And There we go. And I picked, he's been in many things, but I do remember him most fondly as Prince John from Robin Hood Men in Tights. Remember?
I do remember, yeah. What I mostly remember him from was, someone help me out. I'm forgetting the name of the show.
Sitcom,
Anything
right?
But Love.
I saw that show, yes.
What's her name? Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was like 3 seasons or something like that. I mean, it lasted a good long time. I loved that show. I thought that was the greatest. That's where I first became aware of him. And then, of course, he would appear in just about everything after that. You'd see him guest starring. And I'm sorry, it wasn't Tales from the Dark Side. It was Tales from the Crypt that he was in an episode.
That makes more sense because that figures because Tales from the Crypt had a humorous edge to it. I remembered, even though it was a horror series, but yeah. But
a very, very. He had that kind of funny where it was he could play it straight, but you'd think for a second, then you realize, that was a zinger.
No, very funny comedian, underrated comedian too. Like you always knew when you saw him. But I probably have not seen enough of his stuff. I probably should, but I'm going to go ahead and read a bit from the, I guess the obituary, unfortunately, about he passed away recently. I do remember seeing him on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yep.
And I remember seeing him there because, what was it? Larry David, they went to a deli, and at this deli they would name sandwiches based on the comedians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Lewis got this really nice sandwich that was named after that was like a turkey-based sandwich, and Larry David got a whitefish based sandwich, and he's like, whitefish, really? He didn't, he didn't want the fish sandwich. He wanted something more like the Richard Lewis sandwich, and it was this whole thing about him trying to get the author to switch sandwiches with Richard Lewis or something. It was this whole big thing. How it gets the awkwardness because the pettiness and everything.
Crazy.
I think he tried his sandwich and didn't care for it, or maybe he didn't like fish or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think it was a turkey sandwich with Russian dressing on it, and that was Richard Lewis's sandwich. And I don't know. That sounds pretty good, actually.
It does.
But Richard Lewis, one of America's most beloved and revered stand-up comics, who also played a fictionalized version of himself on HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm, died Tuesday night at his home in Los Angeles after suffering a heart attack. He was 76. His death was confirmed by publicist Jeff Abraham. Lewis had been living with Parkinson's disease, a diagnosis he revealed in April 2023. His wife, Joyce Lipinski, thanks everyone for all the love, friendship, and support and asks for privacy at this time. Abraham said, complete information on survivors is not immediately available. Born Richard Philip Lewis on June 29, 1947 in Brooklyn and raised in Englewood, New Jersey, Lewis, after a childhood he would describe as difficult, graduated from Ohio State University before landing in the New York and Los Angeles comedy scenes of the 1970s. There he took his place along such soon-to-be stars as Andy Kaufman, Richard Belzer, and Elaine Boozler, and quickly became a favorite of late-night shows, including The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. He soon developed a singular stage persona, nearly as dark as the all-black clothes he favored. His stand-up performances could best be described as straddling comedy and therapy. Lewis's website prominently features a quote from comedy great Bill Brooks: "Richard Lewis may be the Franz Kafka of modern-day comedy." Self-deprecating, razor-sharp, and brutally honest about his addictions and neuroses, Lewis was the rare comic who could rival the curmudgeonly but highly relatable outlook on life honed by his longtime pal and Curb Your Enthusiasm co-star Larry David. Making his acting debut in the 1979 special Diary of a Young Comic, a 90-minute film that aired in the Saturday Night Live slot, Lewis' national profile grew significantly during the next 2 decades as his edgy observations were welcomed and celebrated by talk show host David Letterman, Jay Leno, and on radio, Howard Stern. TV comedy specials followed. His first Showtime special, pointedly titled I'm in Pain, aired in 1985. He became one of the premier presences on HBO with comedy specials in 1988, 1990, and 1997. Although his humor was rarely an easy fit for sitcoms of the era, he co-starred on several seasons of the late 80s, early 90s with Jamie Lee Curtis on Anything But Love, and with Don Rickles on 1993's Daddy Dearest.
Oh,
and
I never saw that.
That's the sitcom I had seen because I was a fan of Don Rickles. I remember now. Okay, and I forgot it. Okay, I haven't seen Anything But Love. I should look into that. Is that a good sitcom?
I liked it, yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those, I mean, I would compare it to like Mad About You with Helen Hunt and what's his name?
Yeah.
You know, similar, yeah.
They seem like they could be a couple, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In 1998, he co-starred with Kevin Nealon on the sitcom Hiller and Diller. Film credits include 1993's Robin Hood Men in Tights, in which he played Prince John, and 1995's Drunks. He also appeared that year in Leaving Las Vegas. Lewis began what arguably would be his signature role, based fittingly enough on himself, in 2000 when he was cast by his childhood friend Larry David on HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. The two New Yorkers had met at summer camp when they were 12 and reestablished their friendship on the New York comedy circuit a decade later. In a statement Wednesday, HBO said, "We are heartbroken to learn that Richard Lewis has passed away. His comedic brilliance, wit, and talent were unmatched. Richard will always be a cherished member of the HBO and Curb Your Enthusiasm families. Our heartfelt condolences go out to his family, friends, and all the fans who could count on Richard to brighten their day with laughter." Although he largely retired from performing following his Parkinson's disease, he returned to Curb periodically, most recently during the show's current and final season. Well, I guess you'll be able to see him on the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Rest in peace, though. But you were a fan, I take it?
Yeah, I did. And I'd actually forgotten until you mentioned it. His HBO specials. I was real into the comedy, stand-up routine specials back then. And,
yeah, they were great.
Yeah, there were some really, really good ones. But that's too bad.
Yeah.
And we were talking offline, you and I, just to let everyone else know about the conversation. We were talking about how we're losing all these comedians, and it's not like we really have anyone replacing them. And I don't think that's because the talent isn't out there. I don't think you're allowed to be a comedian anymore these days.
No. It was a that's the problem. Look at Jerry Seinfeld. He can't even do his comedy show in New York without getting protesters these days
Yeah.
because basically of his ethnicity. Let's call a spade a spade. That's what's going on there.
It's an anti-something situation, that's
Yeah.
for sure, you know.
And it's just it's a shame because comedians used to. I mean, the comedians would usually make fun of everybody. That was the whole point. You know, they would. Rest in peace, Richard Lewis. We get from Deleted Saints. Another legend leaves us. I'm sad to see him go. He was a talent, and I know. I don't know, and he's one of the better Prince Johns. Let's be honest here, even though it was a comedy.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying. That's a shame with Jerry. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. And the point is, I think even Jerry Seinfeld, though, even before this stuff currently was happening, like the Bocosos on the stand up comedy, he wouldn't go to colleges at some point. I think comedians are just done with the colleges because they get protested and they're done. So I don't know if we really have comedians these days.
I don't even feel like we really have universities anymore. Because for crying out loud, if they're that insular that they can't accept listening to other points of view, you are not in higher education. You are in indoctrination camp.
Yeah. Actually, you know where you find comedians? Oddly enough, you find them on YouTube now.
Yep.
Because you don't have to worry. You have some insulation. Like one guy listened to Bithead 1000. It's a gaming show, but he only spends part of the show talking about old school games. He's basically him going on rants about his life. You know, like, just kill me already. He'll usually start a stream.
Yeah.
You know? It's just him.
I'll tell you what.
Waking up at 3 a.m. and then he steps in dog poop in the kitchen. That sort of thing. You know?
At this point, if you are a comedian, you have got to be on your A game for dealing with hecklers.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. I know that there's a lot of people that question, whether or not women have a sense of humor. Christy Mayer out there, she highlights her videos of her just putting down people in the audience that are giving her crap. And I'll tell you, they are some of her best material. You know,
did you hear what happened with her recently though? She and her husband are expecting a baby. You know, she's pregnant, and she got pepper sprayed at one of the events.
I had heard about that.
That's assault, by the way. You press charges there. That's ridiculous. But
that's really brilliant. I don't care what you think of somebody's opinions or comedy. Yeah. You don't pepper spray a pregnant woman for anything.
Well, you don't pepper spray. Yeah, well, especially a pregnant woman. Yeah,
right.
But still,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. Brandon Herrera is pretty funny. Why do I know that name?
Brandon Herrera is the AK guy on YouTube. He is running for state representative in Texas. Let me tell you something. He is. I think he'll admit this. Running for office, he says I'm insane. I'm a glutton for punishment, and I'm throwing my life away. But he's putting his money where his mouth is. He says you got to do something eventually, and that's what he's doing. But I'll tell you something. You got to watch his show. The first YouTube video of his that I saw was 3-4 years ago for May the 4th, and he was dressed up like Han Solo. And he was showing off a 22 pistol in the style of, it looked just like Han Solo's blaster from Star Wars. I don't remember what company put it out. It was a limited commemorative thing. And he's firing it off. And he's got another buddy from another channel come in dressed as a stormtrooper. And he says, "Hey, can I try it?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." He tries it and he's missing. And he goes, "It's the helmet." And he takes the helmet off. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, it really is the helmet. Then
that'd be the funny joke if there was a contract and money passing to the emperor, and he's okay. We'll use those helmets.
Exactly. The best though was he lines up in his one of his shticks is when he's showing off a gun. He always does the White Claw penetration test. He puts up cans of White Claw and shoots them, right? Yeah. Well, instead, he does bottles of Bantha milk, right? And he has green, blue, 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 green. And he goes bang, 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 and he shoots all the blue milk. And he looks and he goes, Bet you're wondering why I didn't shoot the green ones, because I only shot the ones that were actually in Star Wars movies. And I'm like, I love this guy. Subscribe, notification bell. Absolutely going to watch this guy every single time. He's awesome.
I just want the sequel trilogy to go away. Like I said, Battlefront 2, pretend you're living in the past. It's a brand new remastered game, and you'll get.
I'll tell you, 30 years from now, you're going to have people going, hey, did you know they made a sequel to Return of the Jedi? It sucks. No wonder nobody remembers.
They'll look it up, and it's the Ewok Adventure. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, yeah, actually, that's...
I don't know why they didn't do more.
Into that are going to go, well, this is bad, but it's not that bad.
I'm shocked with the stupid sequel trilogy. We got barely any Ewoks in them. We got one little scene at the end of Rise of Skywalker with Ewoks. Like it's just
Oh, was there? Because I didn't even see Rise of Skywalker.
This is awful. Watch the Red Letter Media clip of Rich Evans when he's saying, "Who wrote the script?" J.J. Abrams, and then the guy, and then Mike mentions the other writer, and he says, "Who's that?" Oh, he's the writer of Superman, Batman, Dawn of Justice, Superman versus Batman.
God. That tells you all you need to know.
And then he freaked out, and he's like, "Wait a minute, this movie's going to be awful."
Yeah.
You have the screenwriter of one of the worst movies ever made, and then you have J.J. Abrams with his mystery box bullshit. I just realized that Richard Lewis with Richard Lewis not gone. Tim Thomerson is the only actor left from the main cast of The Wrong Guys. Yeah. Wow. It's a shame, but check out his comedy specials. Check out his guest appearances on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Plus, I'll look for that sitcom. I mean, he left his mark. I'm just sad to see him go. I did notice he was looking older though. Of course, he was in his 70s when I saw him on Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think his hair was white then. Still the kind of the long hair, but it now white. But
yeah.
All right, here we go. Now let's move on to The Mandalorian and Grogu lands one of California's largest tax credit awards ever. First Star Wars flick to be shot entirely in the Golden State. I'm sure you're going to have some things to say about this.
I do.
The Star Wars franchise is coming to shoot a film entirely in California for the first time with the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. And the Golden State is paying out of its weight in tax incentive gold to have the Bounty Hunter saga made within state lines. To be specific, that is a total tonnage of 21 billion? No. What? Hold on a second.
21,755,000.
Yes, I'm sorry. I've been looking at statistics all week, and I had a U.S. Census assignment due for one of my classes. I'm sorry.
No worries.
They kept, and they would say, pretend there are 3 extra zeros there when they're not.
Right.
Well, then just put the zeros there. I'm not going to say. Actually, I would never speak badly about the U.S. Census or how its website is designed. Anyway, to be specific, that is a total tonnage of $21,755,000 in conditional tax credits for the Jon Favreau directed film with the new Fantastic Four, Gladiator 2, and a new season of The Last of Us on his dance card. It is unclear right now if the SAG award winner Pedro Pascal will be resuming his role of Din Djarin and teaming back up with the charming Baby Yoda for the Mandalorian movie. Well, I don't know either, but it'd probably be a big payday, right?
Yep.
Unless that's the reason they don't want to use them.
We'll see.
What is known as that $21,750,000 in tax credits is one of the biggest allocations in the California Film Commission's run program's history. Put another way, Mandalorian Grogu won't be getting the $22.4 million that Transformers spinoff Bumblebee scored back in 2017, but it tops more than $20.8 million that Captain Marvel was awarded 7 years ago, and the $20.2 million that Quentin Tarantino's supposed last film, number 10, received last September. Is that the movie critic?
Could be.
Okay. Estimated to be hiring 500 crew members, 54 cast members, and 3,500 background players for 92 filming days in California this year. The Mandalorian and Grogu is expected to generate a record-breaking $166 million, $438,000 in qualified expenditures and below-the-line wages. As fans of The Force know, while Mandalorian is aimed to be the first Star Wars movie to be 100% made in California, Return of the Jedi exteriors were filmed in the state back in the early 1980s. still for state looking at a bulging 73 billion deficit and an entertainment industry going through its painful great contraction. The Mandalorian movie is looking like the greatest job creator out of any movie awarded a tax incentive out of California's program. For more than 330 million per year program revitalized in 2014 as job creation centric and seeking to attract big budget movies back to the home Hollywood. That's a pretty big number, even more so than the currently anemic state of the industry post strikes. The Disney Lucasfilm production also knocks Disney's Marvel's Captain Marvel off its perch as the previous top dog in the qualified expenditures and below the line wages that mainlined into California's economy. Partially filmed in Louisiana, the Brie Larson-led MCU picture generated $137 million into the California economy out of its production back in 2018. So I'm almost feeling this is one hand scratches the other or something. I don't know. What? Never mind. I'm ruining that. I'm talking like a president. Okay. Anyway, along with Amazon's MGM recently acquired Chris Pratt-led Mercy, the Mandalorian movie, and the 13 other films were awarded conditional tax incentives out of the most recent round of applications. The result of that round, which ran from January 22nd to 29th, are estimated by the CFC to eventually inject $408 million into California's economy through qualified in-state expenditures. We are thrilled to be able to shoot in Los Angeles thanks to the tax credit, said Mercy producer Charles Roven of today's announcement, which will see the Timur Bekmatov directed film to get just under $4.4 million in incentives. So what's going on here?
Okay. So first thing I want to say is unless Deadline knows something that, nobody else does or they've misspoken, last I've heard, Pedro Pascal has not signed on for the next season of The Mandalorian yet. They said he will return, but I have not heard that he's signed on the dotted line yet. And as they point out, he's kind of got also, Fantastic Four, Last of Us, Gladiator 2 all going on. So, he may still be in negotiations here. Now,
well, he could always just voice the character, though.
Well, that's a good point. The other side point, though, is that perhaps this whole move to California with all the filming, that's the other thing. I don't know if this article stressed it well enough, but this tax incentive is based entirely on everything they film for this show has to be done in California. That's what the tax credit is for. In other words, what they're saying is you will get this tax credit, but that money is staying here in California.
So the entire movie has to be shot in California. Well, California is a big state, a lot of locales. You have deserts, you have mountain areas.
But in all honesty, if they're smart, what they're doing is they're just doing this all in front of their video game background technology that they're doing, whatever they call that.
Well, then why is it going to cost so much money, $166 million?
Well, it sounds to me like all the people they have to hire, the crew and the.
All right.
See, again, this is all part of the palm greasing, right? This is California saying we're giving you this money.
One palm greases the other.
But you're going to put this money into a bunch of local Teamsters, basically. Oh, guess who was marching today in California? By the way, yeah, Many Crafts won fight in Woodley Park, Encino, California today at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The Teamsters were having a rally. So, as I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I've mentioned a couple other times, I'm thinking we're going to be seeing another major strike. This time from your Teamsters and your crew saying, no go.
Is this because of streaming?
At least partly, yes.
It seems like streaming is costing Hollywood a lot.
It's also related to all this, CGI, AI, all that kind of crap too. But whatever it is, I can guarantee you that this is going to go the same way as anything else. If the Teamsters decide we're on strike, well, then the actors and the writers have to go on strike too, because unions. So you're going to see all of these shows shutting down again.
Solidarity.
Absolutely. That's the way unions work. Right or wrong, That's what happens.
including the talk shows.
Yeah, it's going to see. That's the funny thing. Whereas before you could say, well, we're not a scripted show and the writers are on strike. There's no actors. There's no writers. We can go ahead and do our show. It's very different when it's your crew that's going on strike. It's going to be your gaffers, your sound engineers, your camera people. They're all on strike. None of your shows can be filmed, right? And you have to be in solidarity because your union is working with that union. And if you don't, the union turns on you and you're blacklisted and you can't work. I'm not going to turn this into a union thing. I could go off on a whole tangent here. I'm just telling everyone the way it actually does work. So, yeah, watch this coming. But this is where the money is going right now. This is probably Gavin Newsom trying to, maybe try to curtail some of that, at least, in the La La Land, and trying to keep the entertainment industry in California. Because how many of these actors are also moving out of California, too?
Yeah, that's true.
We were just talking about that 2 weeks ago, right? So
last strike seems to have made things worse. Not sure. I think another one would help.
You make a great point there, Matanui. I mean, you gotta look at it with the kind of tunnel vision they have. All they see is what's on their plate in front of them. All they see is their dollars, their job security, their whatever. They're not standing back and taking a big picture look and saying, we go on strike and destroy this business, and now none of us has a job. You want to know how striking and holding a whole industry hostage works out? Go ask the auto workers in Detroit how that worked out. You destroyed a whole industry in Detroit, and all those jobs left your state, and now you're all out of work. Congratulations.
And now Detroit's looking like it did in RoboCop. But anyway, IITSC is more tangled than a Borg cube. Okay.
Yeah, I think they actually verbalize that as IITSC.
Okay. Yeah. Sam Proctor, I'm going to answer this question. What's Gladiator 2 going to be about? It's going to be about a gladiator.
Or maybe it's about two gladiators.
There you go, two gladiators. Are the antagonists going to be the four emperors or even on guard? Maximus freaking died at the end of the last one. Maybe his ghost will be visiting like the new I don't know. Did he have a kid?
Don't even get me started on
son of Maximus, and he'll see the ghost of his dad.
The history that was portrayed in Gladiator. They could be doing fucking anything, and it doesn't matter.
It's Ridley
Scott.
Made
up bullshit.
It's Ridley Scott did Gladiator.
Oh, that's right. We weren't there. How do we know?
Ridley Scott. Okay, he wants to do fantasy movies, but he doesn't. Anyway. Disney shakeup. Sean Bailey exits as president of Walt Disney Motion Picture Studios. Searchlight. David Greenberg takes over and will run 20th.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting too. This is one of those ones I got to paste them separately.
It's fine. Here's the first part. Look at these people, huh? The movers and the shakers.
Yeah.
That have showers in their office.
Yeah, the top 3%, right.
All right, so here we go. Effective immediately, Walt Disney's president of Motion Picture Studios, Sean Bailey, who turned the company's animation vault into a multi-billion-dollar live-action business, is departing. After 15 years on the lot, Searchlight co-president David Greenbaum will take on a newly created role. He'll be president of Disney Live Action and president of 20th Century Studios. How are you going to be president of both?
Yeah. Think about that for a second. So, on the one hand, what it sounds to me like is what you often see in corporate America. We get rid of two managers and put one person in that place. So we cut our overhead by half. Right.
It's like when Lasseter was stuck in charge of the Disney Animation Studios and Pixar at the same time. He was like in charge of all the animation.
And personally, if there's two ways to look at it. One, you have one person doing two jobs, so they're both being half-assed, right? You're not getting decent quality oversight. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that it doesn't make a difference, and if it doesn't make a difference, you don't need anyone in that fucking job. Just saying. Pick one.
So let's see here. Okay, Greenbaum's new title will be President, Disney Live Action 20 Studios. He'll report to Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman. Steve Aspel will continue to serve as president, 20th Century Studios, a role he's had been since March 2020. He will report to Greenbaum. So he'll be the assistant? Let's move on.
I don't know if this is going to be. This could, for all we know, this could be another, Chapek Iger kind of thing.
This splits up the Searchlight Pictures executive team of Greenbaum and Matthew Greenfield, two of the most highly regarded execs in the prestige film space, who right now have Poor Things squarely in the Best Picture race and other Oscar categories. The duo succeeded longtime leaders Steve Giglia and Nancy Utley after they championed and shepherded the Guillermo del Toro directed Best Picture winner, The Shape of Water. Greenfield will continue running Searchlight, and this is a big opportunity to broaden the Disney Motion Picture Studios business beyond primarily mining the animation catalog for live-action hits. It's a full circle moment for Bailey. He arrived at the studio as the producer of 2010's $400 million Christmas event titled Tron Legacy, and he'll stay on to produce Joachim Ronning's Tron Ares before moving on to more entrepreneurial endeavors. If that's a reboot, I'm out.
Yeah.
Period. I finished what you started.
Agreed.
I don't even know if they can make a proper sequel at this point.
I don't know.
Anyway. Let's not rant about Tron. Okay.
That's a whole separate tangent.
There was buzz Bailey was going to take over the top Netflix film job from Scott Stuber, who is departing the streamer, but that is not the case as we hear it. Sean has been an incredibly important member of the studio's creative team for well over a decade, said Bergman. He and his team have brought to the screen iconic stories and moments that have delighted fans around the world and will stand the test of time. I know he'll continue to do great things, and I can't be happier that he's staying on as producer of Tron Ares. So I guess that's his swan song. Is that it?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. That's the one that's going to have Jared Leto in it, right?
No idea.
Is Jared Leto in Napoleon? Ridley Scott tends to like to use him, but I guess not.
Okay. I I didn't watch it.
No, but he was in House of Gucci, where he. Part of me almost wants you to watch House of Gucci just because it was just. It was a bad movie. And it had American actors doing bad Italian accents. And anyway, sounds like streaming was a bad. So this was the last idea. Probably ruined physical. Ruined physical media. The quality of the writing. The problem of just coming. That just keep coming. They don't stop coming. Yeah, I know. Troy, I look at Disney like a snake that is too stupid to realize it's eating its own tail. That's a good. Yeah. That's a good analogy. What do you think, huh?
Nah, it really is.
All right. So moving on to other Disney.
In fact, I would even argue that Bob Iger probably agrees with you.
I feel like this is an escape hatch.
Yeah, let's talk.
Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. This is a huge article. I try to cut as much of the fat. All right. Investors can learn much by paying attention to how corporate insiders handle positions in their companies. People may sell shares for various reasons, including buying a house, paying for college, or getting ready for retirement. Generally, they buy just one reason: they expect to be making more money. Often one of the largest and best informed shareholders in any company is the chief executive officer. Let's see whether Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger has been increasing or decreasing his shares over the past year, and whether he knows something we don't. Over 1 year ago, Iger owned around 1 million shares worth over $97.2 million. On last look, he owned less than 187,000 shares, a decline of about 844,000 or so shares. The value of the stake plunged around 80.2% to more than $19.2 billion. The question that may be foremost in many investors' minds is whether CEO Bob Iger is preparing to pack it in and let someone else take up the reins of reviving Disney. But of course, as mentioned, insiders sell shares for a variety of reasons. Time may tell what Iger is thinking or whether he knows something we don't. Meanwhile, the company reported better than expected quarterly earnings earlier this month, and management appears to be turning its attention to streaming sports and video games. The stock is still popular with institutional investors, and analysts have a cautious consensus buy recommendation. though their current mean price target is a little less than recent share price. Another internal shareholder to watch is former Chief Financial Officer Christine McCarthy. Her stake was worth almost $17.5 million on last look. Executive Vice President Brent Woodward has a stake worth in less than $3.3 million. Note that Woodford sold some shares last month and in December. All right, what's going on?
See, this is
Does
one
he
of
know
those.
something we don't? Is something
Yeah, see,
okay?
this looks bad. This looks bad, and I think given all the other extraneous information we know about what's going on, it doesn't look good. There are good reasons to sell your stock. You know, look, I own stock, blah 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 blah, but I need cash. I'm doing a home renovation, or I need another shower, or I want to take a trip, or whatever. That's usually what is the case behind people selling off their stock. But when you sell 80%, and some have calculated to be actually closer to like 90-92%, and especially when they're in the kind of situation that they are in right now, where the board is fighting a possible takeover, and vote your stock. You kind of want to hold on to as much stock as you can, so that you have as much voting leverage as possible. In fact, the way this works, you sell off stock, you have no idea who's buying it up. For all you know, you're selling it to the guy who you are going head to head with. If those, 80%, 92% of his stock were bought up by Nelson Peltz, you may as well just kiss your 2 showers goodbye.
But I have a question though. They keep blocking Peltz. How much stock does he have to take over?
Well, okay. If you want it to keep it simple, he could buy up 51% of the stock. But no, he can't. There isn't that much stock available. So what you do is you form voting blocks. We know that he's working with Lassiter. We don't know how much stock Lassiter has, but so you got to add those two together. There's a lot of rumors that Elon might own some stock and might be giving Nelson Peltz voting control over those.
Elon.
So when you start adding all that together, plus who bought this stock, this is how, and I hate to sound like, that Batman movie, a lot of moving parts, it's all very technical, but I think you all get the picture, and I'm just saying that the vote is in April, and it's going to get very, very interesting.
Disney owns many companies. Bet old Bob owns stock in some of those companies too.
Well, and here's another thing. It also sends a message, whether it's an intentional one or not. He's basically saying, for all of my bluster and my control and this and that, I'm selling off my stock. Hey, stockholders, how much value do you think I put in this business? How much do you think I care about whether or not this company makes a profit or not? He's really sending a very negative impression of himself as a CEO.
So you think maybe he's not long for this world then? I mean, not long for CEO status.
Well, probably not. But even after he's removed as CEO, he's got a contract that's going to keep him around for a couple of years as a consultant. That's going to be interesting to see how they break that.
I do like this comment. I was going to bring this up. So, Troy, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bob Iger came back to Disney, see if he can fix it, just to realize how quick the last guy ruined Disney formula, and there's probably no way to fix it. Well, I'm also thinking
he never left.
I'm also thinking that he would be coming back, like they'll get a new guy in there and that can't fix the mess, and I have to come back as CEO, and they'll get more shares or something. It's like,
yeah, no, let's not be confused. He never left. Bob Chapek, for all that they try throwing him under the bus and saying it was all his fault, he was never really allowed to lead. Bob Iger never left his office. This is why we keep making the joke about his 2 showers. He never gave up the executive suite to the guy who was supposed to
He
get that
also
offer.
wouldn't back up Bob Chapek. Remember during the whole
Never.
Black Widow thing? He
Nope.
was like siding with Scarlett Johansson publicly in the media. I think that's what was
Yep.
happening, right? Yeah.
He literally undermined the company. And it was all a stupid political play that has not paid off for him or for Disney at all.
There's a rumor. Yeah.
Disney is very much dying as a company. For all that the pixie dusters keep saying, oh, it's too big to fail, they'll be fine, they've got to... No, they don't. They are not doing well in the parks. They are not doing well in the movies. They are not doing well in their streaming service, even their cruise lines. They're not even the biggest cruise line anymore. They are losing market share everywhere.
It's depressing. I never thought. I mean, 20 years ago, Disney was not in this shape. They seem more vibrant. I don't know. You think Iger's the main one to blame?
Yes,
he's one of them at least. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if not,
he did all the hiring. He did a lot of the bad hiring. Yeah.
True. He even said himself, "The buck stops here." Well, yeah, you're the guy in charge. It all happened on your watch. Even when it was Chapek, it was still on your watch. The Man Who Killed Disney. That would be a great name for a movie. The Man Who Killed Disney.
Then again, the Disney formula was flushed down the toilet right after Bob Iger came in. Well, apparently that's what happened with Wish. So there we go. Speaking of the classic Disney formula, unless you have something left to say about Mr. Iger here.
Oh, I've got a lot of things to say about Mr. Iger, but yeah, maybe it's best that I don't.
I thought that was a good pivot because someone was bringing up the classic Disney formula. You a big Mary Poppins fan?
True. I am a huge Mary Poppins fan. I love this movie. I could recite it to you, and we're going to get into some of what I would be reciting.
A British film industry group has raised the age rating for the beloved children's classic Mary Poppins over discriminatory language. The British Board of Film Classification, BBFC, which regulates films and video content in the country, changed the rating of the 1964 Disney musical last week from U, Universal, to PG, parental guidance, because it features a racial slur once used by white Europeans to refer to the native peoples of southern Africa. Mary Poppins from 1964 includes two uses of the discriminatory term Hottentrots. A BBFC spokesperson said in a statement to CNN, while Mary Poppins has a historical context, the use of discriminatory language is not condemned and ultimately exceeds our guidelines for acceptable language at U. The iconic film returns to UK theaters this year in celebration of its 60th anniversary, which prompted the BBFC to re-examine its original rating. Even as Mary Poppins remains a treasured part of the cultural canon, the film has been criticized for trafficking in blackface. It's partly in this context that the discriminatory language referenced by BBFC appears in the film. In one scene, an eccentric Admiral Boom asks one of the bank's children if he is going on an adventure to defeat Hottentrots. Later in the Hottentrots. Did I say
nope.
I said Hottentrot.
Hottentot.
Hottentots.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm thinking of the movie Hot to Trot, but anyway.
Yes, probably.
Okay. Hottentots.
Yes.
Later in the film, as Admiral Boom sees chimney sweeps with soot-blackened faces dancing in the distance, he shouts, "We're being attacked by Hottentots," and orders a cannon to be fired in their direction. Yes. Hottentot is a derogatory term used by European settlers to refer to the Khoikhoi peoples of South Africa and Namibia. Nambia. Why is there an I in there? No, I'm canceled now. No,
yes, you are.
Right. According to the Oxford Reference, per the new film rating, children of any age can still watch without an adult present, but parents should consider whether the content might upset younger or more sensitive children, a BBFC spokesperson said. A 2020 BBFC report on racism in media found that people generally understand films and TV shows with objectionable material to be quote-unquote products of their time, but that they would prefer to be warned about such content so that they can decide whether it's appropriate for themselves or their families. We understand from our racism and discrimination research and recent classification guidelines research that a key concern for people, parents in particular, is the potential to expose children to discriminatory language or behavior that they may find distressing or repeat without realizing the potential offense. A BBFC spokesperson said, in recent years, the movie industry has grappled with how to handle racist and offensive content in classic films. Now, I want to make a point that this is England. This is not the United States that's doing this right now. I always figured that you weren't supposed to take the Admiral seriously.
Exactly. The guy was nuts. There was no doubt about it. The character was crazy. Yeah.
And he's talking about Hottentots like the kids know what that is, and you know it's. I don't think you're supposed to emulate his behavior.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. I think even in the context of the movie, the kids had no flipping clue what he was talking about. But you know, this is again, people who've never heard this term before are getting all like this is some sort of old English version of the N-word or something like that. And this is not comparable. Yeah, I mean, it's not a nice word, but it's pretty milquetoasty, you know,
compared to other slurs. Yes.
I mean, it was
sounds
never
ridiculous to me. Something like some upper crust person would say, like on Safari or something. It's like it's not something a normal person would say. That's the
exactly
that was part of his character. Okay,
and yeah, you would have to. And here's what's interesting. And this is why I think this kind of thing is important. You'd have to be someone like Admiral Boom, who was in the military of rank to even know that term. You'd have to be world traveled, right? It's not even, the etymology of the word isn't even certain. They think it comes from the Dutch, being based on the German hoteren toteren, for kind of a mocking of the clicking, stuttering of their language, you know?
Right. Okay.
Kind of like what it sounds like. It's not nice, but it's kind of dismissive is what it is. And that's, whatever it is, it's not nearly as bad as like something like the N-word, right? Or, other racial slurs for other racial groups. I find this, I find this exhausting. I really do. This is freaking ridiculous. It's going back and drumming up something from decades ago to be all upset about and stir up reasons to be upset about this. I'll tell you what, find me one member of the Koi Koi, okay, that complained about it, and I'll say fine. But there, this is again a bunch of white liberals getting, bent out of shape on someone else's behalf who doesn't really give a damn.
Chimney sweeper was a dangerous job, and they did get in the chimney, clean them, and you will get dirty. Yes.
Yeah, they didn't get into a lot of the elements they could have about, chimney, a sweep is as lucky unless you're a kid that was shoved down there and died, because that happened,
I have a question. Do you think that they're going to, now Disney Plus is going to have to issue a warning before this movie now?
Whether or not they have to, they will, because that's who Disney is.
But this was like not even that long ago, this century, they were big on trying to celebrate Mary Poppins. They did the Saving Mr. Banks movie, which was about the making of Mary Poppins. They did the sequel to Mary Poppins Returns, with Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins.
It's very interesting you say that. That does send a very mixed message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it basically says, oh, we didn't know we should be offended, so now we're offended. Let's all be offended now.
This is reminding me of the Charlie Brown special, the Franklin thing that we talked about last week with the Thanksgiving and sitting on the other side of the table. And then you sent me a video on that where crap, I should have had that ready to post. But if you remember the YouTuber, I remembered she basically said that the whole reason behind that was that Franklin didn't have a lot of quirks. He was actually a normal kid compared to people like Linus and Schroeder and stuff like that. So
It's actually kind of true. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so they wanted him to be fighting with the chair, like the chair broke on him on the other side of the table. I don't know if that scene ended up getting filmed for the special.
I even pointed out that
yeah,
was the chair that
Snoopy was fighting with.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
So I think that was the intent, to have a gag and gives Franklin a spotlight thing to do to make him, stand out like the other kids can stand out. It wasn't intended to segregate.
This is a bunch of people going out of their way to be offended on someone else's behalf.
And they told a lovely story about how Charles Schultz, he had talked to a Black American cartoonist, and how there was a cry to get a black character Peanuts. And Schultz said he didn't have a problem with it, except the fact that he thought he might be, what was it? He didn't want to have like a token character in there.
Right.
I think that's what but exactly. Then but the guys, they so insisted. So then he went ahead and did it. And of course he got outrage from newspapers in the South that didn't want to play, wanted to take him, Franklin out. And he says, you know what? You posted, you post. They say you posted or don't. I'm not changing it. So
yeah.
To even insinuate that Charles Schultz, was, and what was interesting about him and this other cartoonist was they talked to each other like grown men and actually developed a friendship because they brought up each other's points of view and listened to each other, which is what adults do. And
well, it's at least what adults used to do. Yeah, now adults behave like children, and
Yes, well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that Song of the South made more money in its 1986 reissue than it did when it was originally released, and it was successful at that time too. Was it released in 1986 again?
I think it was. Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was one of those rotations out of the Disney vault.
Was it in theaters or was it also on video?
No, I think it was in theaters.
Because I don't remember it ever coming to video. Okay.
But it came to VHS. Yeah, it was released on VHS.
I never saw it. They never had it on the Disney Channel. I can tell you that. I haven't seen it.
Of course not. Yeah, I mean, and again, they're doing more harm to the black community than they're doing good, because you are forgetting that the first Academy Award for a black, was it a black male actor, was from Song of the South.
Interesting. For a black female, I believe, was Gone with the Wind.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Another one they try to destroy, and it's like, you know what? Okay, fine. I love the meme that goes around. It's got a picture of the Quaker Oats guy, Uncle Ben, the Land O'Lakes woman, and Aunt Jemima, and it shows successively each one of those characters disappearing until there's just the Quaker Oats guy. And it's like,
yep.
Do you see what's happening, people? Do you see what's happening? You are being erased. These are not beneficial, white saviors coming in to be offended on your behalf. These are white racists coming to erase your contribution to history.
Well, it's the current year. I think people are getting sick of it, though. I think increasingly with each week, people are just getting fed up. But we'll see what happens. As the
Democratic Party loses black voters, you better believe things are changing.
We'll see what happens in the fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Fubo TV. This again?
This is a big, this will be interesting. And it's getting harder and harder to deny antitrust in matters like this.
David Gandler, co-founder and CEO of sports TV streamer Fubo TV, on Friday hit out at media giants pulling their own sports streaming rights to launch a rival streamer, speaking of pernicious practices after bringing a lawsuit against them. These results are especially impressive given the years-long challenges Fubo has faced as a result of what we believe have been anti-competitive practices by the Walt Disney Company, Fox Corp, and Warner Brothers Discovery. Gandler said as he unveiled his company's fourth quarter financial results, where the sports streamer hit 1.61 million subscribers. As evident in the antitrust lawsuit we filed against these parties last month, their proposed sports streaming joint venture is only the latest example of the pernicious practices they have inflicted to suppress our business and harm consumers. We're asking for an opportunity to compete fairly as a business and to offer consumers a streaming option that gives them the channels they want at a fair price, Gandler said in a statement ahead of the morning analyst call. The lawsuit filed in New York federal court on Tuesday under seal names the Walt Disney Company, Fox Corp, and Warner Bros. Discovery, and seeks to block the joint venture. The untitled streaming platform, unveiled February 6th and scheduled to launch this fall, will offer 5 linear channels like ESPN, Fox, ABC, TNT, and TBS, as well as games and other sports rights from all 3 companies on a non-exclusive basis. It will be offered directly to consumers, but also as a bundle with WBD's Max, Disney's ESPN Plus, and Hulu. Gandler, during a morning analyst call, didn't hold back when responding to questions about the impact of the lawsuit and upcoming competition from the rival sports streamer. I think that this is a duel to the death. It has been when we started this company. We are fighting for consumers. We are fighting for our customers. We are fighting for the tens of billions of dollars that are wasted annually by consumers paying for the same content multiple times. This is a very important process. We are sticking to our principles, to our guns, and we're continuing to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time, as you can see from our numbers, he told analysts. Gandler added, we assert this joint venture is an attempt to monopolize the sports streaming industry and eliminate competition. The proposed venture, we believe, just the latest example of the sports cartel's attempt to block and steal Fubo's visions of what a sports streaming bundle should look like, resulting in billions of dollars in damages to our business. We consider the defendants' pernicious contractual terms and other anti-competitive practices borderline racketeering. Wow, those are some big accusations. I will say this, though. Remember a while back we were talking about one of the bundles with you could do Disney Plus and then get Hulu and then get the ESPN. Was it ESPN Plus? And people were complaining that stuff on ESPN didn't have everything they wanted, like it didn't have the stuff that was being shown on the actual ESPN channel and all these other contractual things. I'm assuming this joint venture between these 3 companies is to get a streaming platform that has all of the sport content people would want to watch.
I mean, this is going to
Hello?
something that we've been talking about. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, hello? Hello?
Yes. Hold on.
Hello?
Here. Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me?
Can you hear
Hello?
me?
I can hear you just
Am I
fine.
gone?
I can hear you.
I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Hold on. Hold on.
I can hear both of you.
Netter can hear both of us. Well,
Hello?
you're sitting in the same room I am.
I can hear you over my
Oh,
earpiece.
okay. Guys, everybody in the chat, can someone help us with a sound check? Are you hearing both of us? Am I coming through? Let me know. I was listening to everything Boomer said, but he wasn't hearing me.
He did cut out for a minute.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. I can hear you just fine. I've been able to hear you fine all this time.
Oh,
you
well, I
hear
could
me?
hear you.
Oh, okay.
I
There
can,
you go.
yes.
Fine.
Okay.
Never mind. I'm sorry. That was
Samuel Bracker, I can hear you both. Everyone's saying, yeah, I
Exactly.
can hear you guys just fine.
Oh my goodness. I hate American internet. Okay.
Man,
Let's
Boomer
anyway,
is being a
what
boomer.
well,
That's
Fubo
what's
TV
happening.
are trying to say.
You did just robot there, Boomer. So you might be having some connectivity issues. Okay, now I'm not hearing you, Boomer. Okay. I heard you say, what the heck?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I whisper what the heck? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear Boomer now.
Okay. I
I
don't
can
know
hear
what
you good.
happened there. All right.
You were doing
Fubo
a little bit of
TV.
roboting. Yeah. So here's what I was going to say about this. This goes back to what we've been talking about with streaming forever, right? There's getting to a point where you can't just be the one streamer and buy up everyone. Eventually, what's going to happen is some of these failing streaming services are going to have to give up the damn ghost and start making their money off of licensing to other streamers. Okay. And Disney's not ready to do that, but Disney has never been ready to crap or get off the pot. They have not done what they need to do to be dominating the streaming service, which we said from the beginning, it's going to come down to, I think I predicted Netflix, Disney, and Hulu. Now, Disney bought Hulu, so it should have been Disney Hulu dominating the whole damn market. But Disney has not put all of their content on their streaming service. They have not made it all available. They haven't made all their Fox material available.
Nope.
And they're not using Hulu in any logical sense. Okay? So Netflix is just continuing to do their thing and doing just great. Sashi says, I can hear you guys all the way from Asia.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sashi.
Probably on my end. So
Thank you for being here, Sashi. You're wonderful.
Uh,
But so now what they're complaining about is, look, you can't own everything, Disney. If you're gonna own everything, for crying out loud, make it available, but you can't just buy this stuff and sit on it, right? You can't own everything. And this is literally what antitrust laws are for. If this lawsuit can't be brought, then what the hell do we even have antitrust for?
do you think Fubo's going to win?
Do I think they're going to win? Let
This
me
is
put
a
that question
juggernaut they're
aside.
going up against. This is
Let me put
Warner
that.
Brothers and Discovery too. They're going up against, not just Disney.
Let me put that question aside and ask you a related question. Should they win? Yes, they absolutely should win, without a doubt. There isn't even much debate about that. Will they win? There's a lot of uncertainties there that, because I don't know, I hate to sound like, like an old time sci-fi computer, not enough info, not enough data, but that really is the case here. But on the one hand, I do feel like, look at what happened with all the times the federal government has gone to bat for Disney to extend out their copyright for Mickey Mouse, right? Obviously, they said, you know what? Enough's enough. No more. Things are going to start going into the public domain the way they're supposed to. No more extensions. And honestly, you got these lawsuits going on. Well, it's Florida. You could argue about state laws. I think even the federal government is starting to kind of turn against Disney and say, no, you are not that important. You're not more important than any other company, and you're becoming less and less important and relevant with each passing year. So I don't know how this is going to go. But then again, there is so much corruption. Who knows? Who knows? All I can say is what I think should happen.
I don't know. We'll see. I wish Fubo the best of luck. I just worry that. I mean, I don't. Do we trust the courts right now? That's my thing.
I also don't know who all's involved with Fubo TV,
Right.
or who might at some point in the future decide to come to their assistance. I'm just saying there's a lot of moving parts right now and a lot of different interests turning against Disney right now.
Disney doesn't crap on the pot; they crap on us.
Well, that's true. That's true.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you something. When you got a double-decker outhouse, you shouldn't be in the bottom one. Is all I'm saying. Just stay out of
it. Was that ever a thing?
As a matter of fact, yes, it was. Netter and I spent some time with an old friend today who was talking about some trips he went on. And in a couple different states, he has visited double-decker outhouses. And I'm like, you've got to be... Well, this is even worse. One of the ones in Illinois that he went to, he got there and he needed to go to the bathroom only to find out that it was just a museum piece. It wasn't in use.
Oh,
and
that's
the nearest
funny.
one was miles away.
Oh,
and he's
that's
like,
funny.
you're telling me I came all this way to see this damn John and I can't even take a dump in it? Yes, there is such a thing.
I now have this image of someone's up and he says, I'm almost done on the bottom. I can't hold it.
Yeah, exactly. Plop. You're right. Exactly.
Oh,
I don't think it works quite the way we think it does, but all the same, Oh,
I mean, I've used an outhouse on occasion, usually when I was scouting when I was younger.
oh, sure. Did you do the thing where you double check to make sure you're not going to be sitting down on a hornet's nest, or there's a snake?
Well, this was in
there
the
or
dead of
something?
winter when I used it. This was during what they called
You don't
winter
have,
carnival.
yeah, you pretty much don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff in the wintertime,
I
because
hate to
the
say,
snakes die. Well, the snakes wouldn't be in there because they would be
hibernating.
hibernating. Any wasp nest would be empty and dead. So yeah, you're probably okay in the wintertime.
It was so cold when you
How
would go
cold was it?
well, when you peed, the steam would come out of the pee. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
I
talking about.
remember those days. Yes, I do.
Yes.
I absolutely do. Yeah,
New
yeah.
Jersey in the winter, unpleasant. Anyway,
And this might be way too much information for the audience, but
I don't care. It's my stream.
those of you that are male, who've ever had to go number one outside, in the wintertime, and I'm talking winter times like, at a northern latitude, snow on the ground type winter. That's a very interesting sensation. Let me just put it to you that way.
There you go.
The same may be true for women. I don't know. I'm just saying, I know from the perspective of a male.
Another sport, I think they need to pay attention to sports around there. Disney lost subscriber from India because they didn't retain the rights for cricket.
That's absolutely right.
So stupid. Know where you're streaming. All right. Time for the next thing.
Okay, what is this dish that we're looking at? Looks like some sort of a whitefish.
It's fish and chips.
Oh, fish and chips.
Served at a restaurant that we're going to be talking about now. I had it on occasion, so this is kind of tragic, so I wanted to be careful with what image I put up here. If you click on the article, you can see what the doctor died of this. This is a doctor too. This was a person who knew her stuff, and just it's a shame. A doctor from New York University died shortly after she ate at a Disney Springs restaurant in Florida, and her bereaved husband is blaming negligent staffers, according to a lawsuit. Kanakporn Tangsuan, a doctor at the prestigious New York University Langone Hospital in Manhattan, died suddenly after having dinner at Raglan Road Irish Pub and Restaurant on October 5th. Her husband, Jeffrey Piccolo, has filed a 19-page lawsuit in Orange County, Florida, at Circuit Court, accusing Walt Disney Parks and Resorts of negligent, noting that Tang Swan had made it clear to the waitstaff that she had nut and dairy allergies. The staff at the pub insisted they were able to make allergen-free food after Tang Swan checked multiple times, the suit said. Tang Swan ordered broccoli and corn fritters, scallops, and onion rings. The restaurant is owned and operated by Irish partners John Cook and Paul Nolan, not by Disney. After dinner, Tang Swan left the restaurant to explore the shopping complex when she began feeling sick. She entered Planet Hollywood, where she experienced severe difficulty breathing and collapse. Though an EpiPen was immediately administered to her, she ultimately died at a local hospital, lawsuit said. According to court papers, the medical examiner's investigation revealed she died as a result of anaphylaxis due to elevated levels of dairy and nut in her system.
Yep.
Court papers claim that Disney advertises and makes it clear to the public that food allergies and/or accommodations to persons with food allergies are a top priority at its parks and resorts. The suit alleged Disney failed to execute, train, or instruct its employees and make sure food indicated as allergen-free and requested to be made allergen-free was, in fact, free of allergens. It also stated Disney had control over the menu, food offered, the hiring and returning wait staff, and the policies and procedures as it pertains to food allergies at Disney Springs restaurants. Piccolo is seeking damages in excess of $50,000 pursuant to Florida's Wrongful Death Act. In addition to mental pain and suffering, loss of income, and funeral expenses, Disney did not immediately respond to requests and comments. I think they're going to settle.
They're going to have to. Yeah. That's their only chance. That's their only chance.
Just settle. It's the right thing to do. And I'm sorry, this is a Disney restaurant, even though they said it's owned and operated. This is in Disney Springs. This is in the what we refer to as downtown Disney. It's a Disney restaurant on the Disney Park property. This was I've been to Wrangling Road before. It's funny. I have a story. My family stopped there on one vacation to Disney World, and because my dad wanted shepherd's pie, and he got it and thought it was one of the worst shepherd's pie he'd ever had.
We were We
Yeah.
were at the Disney resorts years ago. I was there on business for a week, and I brought Netter with me. She got a week at Disney. I got to work, but
Huh.
so she would go every day to downtown Disney.
Yeah,
But the
it's
prices were so high. She ended up most days eating just at McDonald's.
Yeah.
There, it was a regular McDonald's in downtown Disney,
sure.
and
I think they have
their
sandwich
prices are
places too.
comparable to where they were everywhere else.
Yeah.
She
I
knew
think
what
they
she
have
was
us.
getting.
They have sandwich places there too. I think, but
Yeah.
maybe they've opened them up since then. But
Now,
the
Netter has an allergy too.
What's the
And
allergy?
it's
You
not
know that.
nearly as serious as this. She doesn't go into anaphylaxis. I think you might classify it more as a sensitivity than an allergy. But believe it or not, black pepper, which is very ubiquitous, if they use let's put it this way: if she can taste it, it's too much, and that will cause her to get some swelling and not
Yikes.
feeling too good. And look, it's really just that simple. Just don't put it in. But we're starting to find more and more restaurants pre-making stuff. And let me tell you something. This tells you a lot about a restaurant. If you go and you say, I want to order this, this, and this, but I can't have pepper, so don't put any pepper on it. Don't put it in the sauce. Oh, but all of this stuff is already pre-made. Well, then I don't want to eat here.
Yeah.
Nobody at this table is going to want to eat here if your food is already pre-made. That's not what I go to a restaurant for. You know what I mean? Now, when you first started telling us this story here, I thought, especially when she said she had a nut allergy, I was like, let me guess. The oil is peanut oil.
Peanut based oil, perhaps.
But if she was able to get up, leave the restaurant, get somewhere else before she went into anaphylaxis, I'm guessing that might not be the case. I don't know. This sounds, there's some serious error here. They definitely, and here's another point. If you have pre-made foods and someone comes in with an allergy, you are unable to make accommodations for them. If you have a restaurant and you know that there's a possibility of dealing with the public that might have allergies, you have no business having anything pre-made.
No. And you know what? If everything does have, they just be upfront and say, sorry, this stuff has the stuff in it. You may want to have to go to a different restaurant. Even though I know that's against Disney policy, probably, right?
Well,
but I mean, it's just
in fact, you should be able to say on your menu, there are certain things here. It contains nuts. If you have a nut allergy, we cannot alter this particular entry. Don't order it. Whatever.
Yeah. This was the fish and chips I'd ordered there, though.
And welcome, Gorilla Random Thoughts. Thank you so much for being here. Or worse, the staff doesn't believe allergies are real, so they ignore you. Look, if when someone said that to you, that was easy
Done.
enough. But if you had been in the same situation as this doctor, you better believe that I would not only be suing the hell out of the company and bringing up the fact that they said that. Do you understand that she died? That means her husband is suing. Yes. I don't know, the legal knowledge of the audience here, but there is a tort that you bring up in a case like this called loss of consortium. That means you have taken from me someone that is important to my life. You've taken my wife from me. That is a whole separate category of compensation that needs to be made.
Couldn't they have recommended something else to eat? Well, that's the thing. The waiter needs to be knowledgeable about this. And if the waiter isn't, then the waiter goes over and talks to the manager or whoever else is in charge and says this person. But this is something they just be trained on. People come in here with allergies. This is the stuff and they need to have this stuff covered.
Yeah.
If you don't know the answer, go to a higher up.
I mean,
you just don't. Yeah,
this is the kind of moronic, idiocy, of a chef. I could totally see a chef doing this. Oh, peanuts aren't a nut; they're a legume. You're an idiot.
Ridiculous.
I'm not
but
saying that's what was said in this instance. I'm just saying this is the kind of stupidity that leads to situations like this.
do you like fish and chips, Troy?
I love fish and chips.
Okay,
However,
they were actually good here in defense of the restaurant.
However, I would not order them with the tartar sauce. I would want malt vinegar.
Malt vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Netter was going through the cabinets recently. She's like, "Why do we have all this damn malt vinegar?" I said, "Because we might have fish one day."
That's what the Brits use. They use malt vinegar.
Exactly. Oh, it's good. It is good. It's actually good with the fries too.
Okay, I'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah.
I will say this though. Fish and chips. It's a pub food you can order, which they usually can't screw up. Okay.
Look,
so if you're ever stuck in a pub,
I'll tell you,
and you need something to order, try fish and chips. It's usually something they can't mess up.
Even batter fried fish is good, in my opinion.
It's not necessarily the best thing for you, but if you have it once in a while.
No, true. And let me tell you something else. You go to these Irish pubs, and they may not change their oil as often as they should. So what you end up with in the fish is this bit of flavor from some of the things that were cooked before, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
I was
like a Scotch egg.
Yeah. I went to an Irish pub here in the Chicago area with a buddy, and I could tell they fried my fish at the same time they were frying his mushrooms, because my fried fish had this mushroomy flavor to it. And I'm like, dude, you got to try some of this fish. And he's like, oh, I could taste my mushrooms on it. I'm like, yeah, right? Yeah. I thought that, and that I think you'd, if what's his name? That Irish cook you see on the Kitchen Nightmares.
Scottish cook.
Oh, is he Scottish?
Gordon Ramsay, yeah.
Gordon Ramsay, right. He would be like yelling and screaming and swearing, change your oil, blah, 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 blah. I mean, don't tell nobody. This was good.
if he liked it, though, he might have, because it was interesting, because, you had this, how he did his, when he's training the chefs and he's yelling at them. But this woman brought in, she made these turkey tacos that she would make for her kids and decided to make that. And she wasn't sure how he feel about it, because it's just something she would make for her kids. But he tried it and says, you know what, this is good.
Yeah,
that's what he said, which I thought was interesting. With him, it's about taste. If something tastes right now, if he doesn't like mushrooms, then you're out. But I love mushrooms. In fact, I haven't had fried mushrooms in ages. Now I want fried mushrooms.
I'm sorry I brought it up, but yeah, I haven't had fried mushrooms in
ages.
A long time.
They used to sell them at a chicken place we went to in New Jersey. There was a fried chicken place called Chicken Delight, and they would sell fried mushrooms. And we'd get fried mushrms with the fried chicken. I've been talking about
food a lot lately, and one of the things I've been saying is, look, just learn to make things yourself. You want something, make it yourself. It's always going to be better, and whatnot. The one thing I don't make myself is fried mushrooms. Like dip them in a batter, put them in flour, fry. I don't. It's just too much work for me. I go out and buy those frozen, and fry them myself.
Right.
And it's whatever it is. But by and large, when it comes to mushrooms, I do eat a lot of mushrooms. Fresh, canned, and I'm sautéing them. I just love them. I love them. And David agrees with me. Yes, malt vinegar, absolutely. Yep.
I have fond memories of Arthur Treacher's back in the day. I've never been to an Arthur Treacher's.
Arthur Treacher's. Oh gosh. There was, even up until Netter and I got married, there were no longer any Arthur Treacher's in the Chicagoland area, but there was one in Cleveland back in the late 90s. No, it had to be like early 2000s. Netter and I drove out to Ohio to pick up. She had won for me a big 6-foot vacuum Millennium Falcon that hung as a display in Toys R Us. She got it for me in an auction. We had to go pick it up. And while we were there, we were going to go to the Arthur Treacher's in Cleveland before we realized how bad a neighborhood it was in. We're talking south side of Chicago type of bad. And we were like, you know what? I'll just remember Arthur Treacher's the way it was. Let's go home. But I don't even know if that one's there anymore.
They closed a lot of the restaurants. I think there might only be one left in the United States, which I find odd. But I remember the school I taught at. They did open them up in a food court right after I was done there, and I was upset because they had it was a combination Nathan's and Arthur Treacher's.
Yes, I heard about that, and that was
Oh,
the only way to get. You look, I'm okay with because
I
look
love
around here
Nathan's.
we have
Oh,
KFC combo with Taco Bell. I don't care as long as each individual food is the good, the food that you get from them.
we used to have a KFC combo with Long John Silver's, but they went away after a while. But yeah,
I love what Sashi says. Yes, I have become much better at cooking since Hollywood movies became trash. I have more time to concentrate on cooking because I'm spending less time watching movies. Good on you, Sashi. Good on
I
you.
made the joke. Hollywood, what are you doing? You've made me start reading books again.
Right. Well,
it's like,
this is
you're
something
driving me to read Bond novels because I don't have any Bond movies to watch, and I got to read the Ian Fleming novels. What are
This
you
is
doing
one
to
of the
me?
things I was saying to a buddy of mine. I said, look, the last thing you want is to kill the momentum, whether it's the toy industry, the gaming industry, which we're about to get into, or the movie industry. I'm out of the habit of going to movies now. Even when you start bringing back good movies, it's going to be hard to get people back in the theaters. So,
I just finished From Russia with Love. That had one of the greatest endings in a book I've ever read. I can't. Maybe I'll spoil it when we are going to do that Bond stream.
We are going to do a Bond stream.
Oh, I can't believe they ended it like that. I was flipping out. You can't do this to me.
We'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay, now we're moving into the wonderful world of video games.
Technically, we're not leaving Disney just yet because we are going to be talking Star Wars here.
You remember Electronic Arts? They used to make games for the Commodore, remember? Back in the day?
Yeah, they did. EA games, they're also the ones behind The Sims, aren't they?
Yes, they're the Sims company.
Yeah.
They also did Sim City. They've gotten a bad reputation in recent years for being awful, but for a while they were pretty good. In fact, I think you had some complaints about how they were handling the Sims games in recent years.
I have. I mean, the thing about the Sims, we could talk about, the woke stuff that's destroying gaming and really all other entertainment right now. But with the Sims, with all the modding that goes on in the community, the idea of changing genders and preferences and relationship statuses through hacks and stuff like that has been happening for so long. When they start doing it in the mainline game, the only people that were really getting pissed off about it were the people that had hacks that would break, that you'd have to take the hack out and put in a new version of it or something to, continue doing what you were doing, Yeah, it was, let's just say it was weird. If you, and I'm not saying I did or did not do this, but if you had a character who was in a same-sex relationship with someone in the game, and it was going along just fine, and the game was progressing as it was supposed to, well, they would put in a patch because the updated system was now allowing same gendered relationships, and that interfered with the hack that you had, and you might suddenly be divorced from your same-sex spouse, and you'd have to it was I gotta be honest with you, that was one of those things that I laughed about. I'm like, oh gosh, some people got problems.
Well, though, it shows that sometimes the users are creating the best content, though, right?
It's kind of been that way for a long time with games that are highly moddable. Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's go into this.
Let's dump on Electronic Arts a little bit more now.
Well, it's not hard because Electronic Arts, which makes such games as Madden NFL and Apex Legends, said today that it plans to lay off 5% of its employees and will discontinue work on several games. The announcement continues the ongoing downsizing in the gaming and tech space, development that has seen thousands of jobs lost. EA said the layoffs are part of a broader restructuring aimed at supporting strategic priorities and growth initiatives. According to a Tuesday Securities filing, EA said that in the document that it also plans to reduce its office space footprint. Last year, EA sliced 800 employees, while Epic Games cut 830 jobs in September. In January, Tencent's Riot Games said it would lay off 11% of its workforce, and Microsoft said it would cut 1,900 jobs from its Activision Blizzard and
Yep.
Xbox gaming division. So I guess they buy Activision and then they start cutting the jobs. Okay. On Tuesday, Sony said it would cut 8% of its global workforce, amounting to about around 900 jobs. More on that in a minute. Based on Tuesday, based on EA's annual report issued of May last year, the company had 13,400 employees. That means the current cuts could amount to some 600 jobs lost. Along with job cuts, CEO Andrew Wilson issued a company-wide letter informing the staff of the publisher's restructuring. That means the sunsetting of some live service titles and ceasing the development of certain projects. In his letter, Wilson stated that EA is restructuring to become more streamlined in order to deliver deeper, more connected experiences for fans everywhere that build community, shape culture, and grow fandom. He said the company will be moving away from licensed intellectual properties and shutting down certain titles to shift its development resources. We are sunsetting games and moving away from development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. Wilson said in the letter, this greater focus allows us to drive creativity, accelerate innovation, and double down on our biggest opportunities, including our own IP, sports, and massive online communities to deliver the entertainment players want today and tomorrow. Wilson.
Well, let me comment there real quick. So this whole thing about moving away from licensed properties, guys, as soon as you hear that, those of you that have been following our channel on a regular basis, little alarm bells should be going off because it's not too dissimilar from what we were talking about last week with Hasbro, right? And both Hasbro and EA Games have connections to Disney through their license of Star Wars properties. And from what I'm hearing behind the scenes from people at Hasbro, they're getting really sick and tired of trying to deal with Disney's oversight and forcing them to, put out certain toys they don't want to be putting out, that they know we're going to lose them money, but they have to in order to put out the other toys that they know will sell. By the same token, you have EA Games here, who's being told, like in Battlefront or whatever, if you are a TIE fighter pilot, you can't fly an X-Wing that you kill the pilot and take his ship. I mean, the kind of thing you would do in times of war, right? No, you're not allowed to fly the other faction's ships because Disney said. I mean, ridiculous micromanaging here.
So no more EA Star Wars games, unless we count the Battlefront 1 and 2 remaster, which may not be EA. Maybe the originals weren't made by EA. I know the sequels were that people didn't like because one of them had loot boxes in them that were...
Right.
As someone said, they put a lot of things behind a paywall. I think a lot of their sports titles have a lot of paywall stuff too. Yeah. What
he's referring to with EA putting games behind a paywall, it's very interesting. This comes down to what I've told you about with games and all other physical media, right? It used to be that if you buy The Sims, you'd buy a CD or a DVD. You'd install it on your computer. You'd play it on your computer.
And if you want to buy an expansion later on, you can do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you'd have to register it. They had ways to make sure that you weren't, pirating it and stuff. Now it's you literally have to download, you have to log in to EA Games to play the game. And if they decide they're not going to support it anymore, you're out of luck.
You had to do that. This is over at Blizzard with Activision, but you had to do that with the Diablo 2 remastered on the Switch. You have to log into the Blizzard servers, and I'm like, I downloaded this game from the eShop. I own it. I shouldn't have to log in to play the game. This is ridiculous. So it was one of my worst purchases in recent years.
Well, and then we're talking about, this 5% of the workforce going away and walking away from licenses and all this other stuff, and we're going to get into some more layoffs at some other companies. And you know what? It's like I've said, these games, these forms of entertainment, these are not necessary for people to live. No. And as we're going through recession, as we are finding, a lot more people being out of jobs and so on and so forth, they start looking at, how am I going to feed my family, pay my rent, pay my mortgage, and pay my utilities? They're walking away from the games.
Oh, Chris P still has his physical copies of Battlefront 1 and 2, as what Troy always says
Yeah.
on physical media. I own them for PlayStation 2.
And in a case like that, not only do you want to own the physical media, keep your legacy computers too. Whatever computer you had that ran it, just put it aside and use it just for playing Battlefront and whatever games are of that generation. Don't hook it up to the internet. Max out your memory and so forth, and enjoy.
You're good to go. I did want to mention, though, in the article, though, they did make there's a rumor going around that Respawn's upcoming Star Wars first-person shooter is one title not moving forward. They're thinking it might have been based on The Mandalorian, or you played as a different Mandalorian, but it was.
Yeah, I was going to say
it
was meant to be an RPG where you play as a Mandalorian bounty hunter, which you think as though the Mandalorian Din Djarin, but some other character. Sounds brilliant. Sounds like it would have been a lot of fun. They'd have found a way to screw it up. Probably best it's not going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I heard some people like the Jedi Fallen Order games. I hadn't played them because it was pretty bad. But let's see. If you were playing Battlefront 2, you want to play Clone Troopers of the 500 or the 212, you have to go online and buy that armor. Oh, yeah. That was with the new one, the new Battlefront game. See, it gets confusing because they're the classic Battlefront games, and then they made a new Battlefront games. They didn't change the titles. It's Battlefront and Battlefront 2, but it's not the classic Battlefront, but it's a new game, which had a lot of these issues. I think, too, we heard Saul mention of live service games. I think the industry all around was investing heavily in live service games, and people don't really want them.
One of these days, maybe in the near future, especially Boomer, if you feel strongly about it and want to do it, maybe we'll do a separate stream on a Friday night about this stuff. Because I got some insights with Star Trek Online and stuff, which is also having some really big layoffs over at Cryptic Studios and whatnot.
Everyone's laying off. It's not just these main companies. Of course, the big one this week was Sony.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Go to the first one in that.
Yeah.
But you were saying though the battle for the Star Wars Online, Star Trek Online was.
Yeah, that's a Cryptic, and I'm forgetting what the other one, Arc is their what do you call it, proprietary system or whatever. Yeah, a lot of the programmers from Star Trek Online, actually all the big names that all the devs that people knew that used to do weekly podcasts and stuff talking about what was coming up in the game and stuff, they've all gotten their pink slips. They're all looking for other jobs elsewhere.
Wow.
And there's the head of the company is going to be on this week's podcast to talk about some of what's going on with the games going forward. It's
the Star Trek Online podcast.
Star Trek Online specifically, yeah. So I'll let people know about that when I hear something. But
wow, I'm telling you, it's the. I'll get into what I think all this means or what this is the beginning of in a minute, but let's go ahead and go through this. It was in the headline, though. Sony Interactive Entertainment on Tuesday said it will lay off about 900 employees in its PlayStation unit, or 8% of its global workforce, becoming the latest technology company to announce the headcount trims. After careful consideration and many leadership discussions over several months, it has become clear changes need to be made to continue to grow the business and develop the company, the unit's president and CEO Jim Ryan said in an email to employees released publicly by the company. He added that employees across the company's regions will be affected by the layoffs. PlayStation's London studio will close in its entirety, with several other studios be affected. There's a really sad picture online when the president was going and visiting, and they were all smiling for the camera being taken. I don't think they realized they were going to be fired soon after. It was really kind of depressing, actually. But the Japanese gaming giant cut its sales forecast for its flagship PlayStation 5 console on February 14th after it warned of lower demand. Sony at the time said it expects to sell 21 million units of the PlayStation 5 in the fiscal year ending in March, trimming from a previous forecast of nearly 25 million consoles. The company's shares plunged sharply after a forecast cut announcement. Analysts had anticipated that Sony could move to release a refreshed version of the PlayStation 5 this year, seeking to boost interest in the console. Tuesday's announcement from Sony is the latest in a string of layoffs affecting the tech industry. In January, Microsoft laid off about 9% of its gaming unit after its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Earlier this month, Cisco and DocuSign both announced plans to cut their workforces as part of restructuring plans. Shares in Sony were down about 3% on Tuesday. I'm kind of surprised by all of this because I think Sony, and I'm thinking that this is a healthy company, at least in the game division portion, because this PlayStation 5 is selling like gangbusters. But
Thank you.
and I did want to make a point that according to What Culture Gaming, I was watching that stream earlier. They said in 2023 there were about 10,000 layoffs in the industry so far. In 2024, 8,000 layoffs, and we're only in March.
David brings up a great point. See if you have any insight on this. Looks like Sony is saving money by firing 900 employees in order to take on Disney's home video division. There's a connection there? I mean, because we did talk about that last week.
I don't know how separately the games division is run from like the movie division, but possibly. Maybe there's a tie there. It's interesting that they're taking over Disney's distribution at the time that they're cutting in other areas. But again, I just don't know. That's interesting, though. I don't know.
It's a thought. It's a possibility.
Oh, welcome, Sin's Corner.
Yeah.
We're talking about the gaming industry. And we'll go into the next one, an upset Insomniac. If you want to go and post that.
Sorry. I
That's
didn't
all right.
realize
Take your time.
we were gonna get... we are kind of going through these pretty quick, aren't we?
Well, just the gaming ones, because it all kind of ties. We'll slow down.
It really does, doesn't it? These things do not exist in a vacuum, so that's why we sometimes include all of these. Hyperlink. Come on, don't be too long. There we go, with 22 characters to spare for once.
There we go. Yes. Okay. An upset Insomniac says PlayStation layoffs are unprecedented. So they're very upset over at Insomniac. They're the ones that made the recently released Spider-Man 2 game. While none of the studios suffering pieces of Sony's layoffs of 900 PlayStation employees are okay with it, few have made public statements outside of individual employees taking to social media to share their grief and frustration. Probably fired employees, I expect. However, Insomniac games also hit by the layoffs. They were hit by layoffs too, and they had a big hit with Spider-Man 2 last fall. They issued a public statement about the reductions on their main Twitter account. Something other big developers affected, like Naughty Dog and Guerrilla Games, have also done. Neither account has posted since February 26 and 27, respectively, but not about the layoffs. But Insomniac is using unusually pointed language to express how bad these layoffs are. Here's what they said. Like other teams across Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation Studios, Insomniac Games was impacted by yesterday's layoffs. There are no sufficient words to express our feelings about it. This is a solemn and unprecedented moment for our studio. We are focusing our energy on helping everyone affected through this challenging time. For those who are hiring, there are great people seeking new roles who made important contributions to Insomniac's history. We're extremely grateful for them, and they will be missed. Again, given the lack of vocalization from other studios, this is pretty significant, and the solemn and unprecedented language seems sharp and like it's being wielded against Sony, justifiably so. This message would not have gone out without being approved by leadership. So unlike, say, Bungie layoffs a month ago, which had corporate statements and mass anger at Bungie management, this does not appear to be what's happening at Insomniac here. This has to be massively frustrating because Insomniac just released Spider-Man 2 after delivering Spider-Man 1, the biggest exclusive hit of the PlayStation 4 generation. I told you I bought the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man console when it came out.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Now, Sony bragged that Spider-Man 2 was its fastest-selling launch in history, moving 2.5 million copies on launch day alone, and announced just 2 weeks ago Spider-Man 2 just passed 10 million copies sold. Keep in mind, this is a $70 game, so that's a chunk of change, don't you think?
Yeah.
The question, of course, is if Sony's most successful studio that just delivered a big hit is still getting hit by layoffs, then how can anyone in the company ever feel safe in any capacity? They do go on to say that the Spider-Man 2 cost $300 million to make, which was triple the budget of the original Spider-Man game that they made for PlayStation 4. So I don't know. But I like this last thing. You can feel Insomniac's anger in that statement, and for good reason. While the industry is obviously struggling, it feels even worse when those who are obviously successful in pumping out hits are still laid off regardless. The industry is cracking. That's how this article ends. You remember the gaming crash of '83, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. You kids might be too young to remember that. Well, some of you might be too young to remember it.
Those of you who cannot remember history are destined to repeat it.
This does not. This might have a different feel. I believe we are in the beginning of another gaming crash. Now, people have been sounding that alarm for years, probably the last 20 years. But the gaming crash is going to happen again. But I've never seen any evidence. But this seems very weird.
Look,
What's happening now?
People that with just enough knowledge of business know these things happen. When you hear someone says, this industry is about to crash, this industry, housing bubble, whatever the case is, pay attention. It's one of those things where, just like all the people that are saying Kathleen Kennedy is going to be out, she's leaving, she's going to be gone, she's going to be out. Look, you keep saying it long enough, eventually it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Eventually it will happen. And with businesses like this, it's not hard to see the writing on the wall for a lot of these things.
I'm guessing that the budget for Spider-Man 2 was run up by hiring Sweet Baby Inc. They really do not need to be doing this. Yeah. Hiring these woke consultant firms
does not help.
For starters, I thought they already had these things inside their own companies. Why are they hiring outside? This is ridiculous. I say that because a game that no one would shut up about. In fact, almost every E3 event for the last 5 to 10 years, they kept bringing up that game. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, sick of hearing about Spider-Man 2 games. Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. They do preview early, and then no one shuts up about it for the next 5 years. True. Yes.
Let me tell you something else. You want to hear something funny about my first reaction to this article?
Mm-hmm.
Totally based on the wording of this title, I totally misunderstood what the article was about. I thought it was some crazed fan who couldn't sleep, who's having a hissy fit about PlayStation, only to find out, oh no, they mean the company Insomniac, not some person who
Insomniac games. Yes, they make the Spider-Man games.
An upset Insomniac. What do I care about what some upset Insomniac?
Upset Insomniac. That's a good title for a studio, don't you think? Insomniac. I don't know. But yeah, they're just going to keep predicting it until it comes true. I get what you're saying, Matanui, but something feels different this time around. And I don't know what the single cause is. I don't know what this is. Maybe this is not going to be as severe as the 183. Maybe the industry will bounce back, but this is a lot's being hit right now, and it just feels different. I've heard a lot of it is a lot of these companies were investing heavily in live service games, which apparently there's only so much demand for those. I think Fortnite and a couple others were the only ones. Grand Theft Auto Online, those were like the big ones, but people kept trying to duplicate that success. Like with Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League.
Yeah, exactly.
Which apparently you could buy Luther bucks to buy, I guess, costumes for Harley Quinn or something. I don't know. And you have to pay for the Luther bucks to use in the online. I don't know. That nobody bought. Nobody wanted that game. And think about that game for Warner Brothers games. That lost a ton of money.
It lost a ton of money.
So
look, each time this kind of thing happens, everyone goes, this is not a surprise. Anyone who's surprised is just too stupid to be in business of any kind.
But I'm just shocked with Sony, though, because I thought Sony was still doing well, because I think their exclusives are what sell the PlayStation consoles. And whether or not I like their exclusives or not doesn't matter. They are popular, and people will buy.
Speaking of Jesse Guajardo,
games like God of War, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jesse Guajardo brings up Grand Theft Auto 6. Speaking of which,
let's pivot. Grand Theft Auto developer slam Rockstar Games for return to office mandate. I see what you're saying, just Matt. My point is, I'm not giving the credit for saying it a million times until it actually happened. Yeah, and to be fair, I'm not. I completely agree with you, and on this channel, I don't think this is the first time I've ever mentioned anything about there being a possible gaming crash. This is
an amen to what Mr. Matchstick, welcome by the way, just said. This is Darwinism happening in real time. You reap what you sow. Yeah, it's the Darwin Awards for business, is what it really is.
What keeps the comic book industry afloat, though? Because if gaming is being hit by this, because I think of no customer more underserved than the comic
movie
book
licensing.
Right now.
Movie licensing and marketing is what keeps the comic book companies afloat.
I was watching one guy review a Conan comic that came up by Titan Books, and it was horrible. It was not only technically badly put together, but also had the woke stuff in it, and he was screaming about it. Grand Theft Auto 6 developers slam Rockstar Games for return to office mandate. And to be fair, this is from a site I do not like, Kotaku, but I kind of wanted to get an article where someone was whining about this, so here we
Yeah.
go. A new report confirms that as Rockstar Games is entering the final stages of development on Grand Theft Auto 6, the company is mandating that employees must return to the office 5 days a week starting in April and to no applause from anyone. Bloomberg reported on February 28th that the company's head of publishing, Jeff Colby, made the return to office decision. In an email to staff, Colby said that the reason for the mandate came down to productivity and security concerns, particularly following the huge breach in 2022 that spilled the tea on the crime scene. She also said that Rockstar Games found tangible benefits from bodies being in office seats. Perhaps making sure people are working. I'm sorry, no, I'll be good. Making these changes now puts us in the best position to deliver the next Grand Theft Auto at the level of quality and polish we know it requires, along with a publishing roadmap that matches the scale and ambition of the game, Colby said. That sounds nice, but no one's buying it. On Twitter, you notice who Kotaku is siding with. On Twitter, developers from Myriad Studios decried the decision, calling the return to office mandate bullshit. Return to office mandates are layoffs, a former Bungie employee tweeted. Remote workers are effectively told, move or quit. Headline should be Rockstar lays off all remote workers, posted a Sucker Punch developer. Developers worry about work-life balance at Rockstar Games. It's not just folks outside Rockstar Games that are upset with the mandate. According to a February 29th IGN report, developers at the studio are criticizing the company's decision as well. Speaking to the publication anonymously, one employee said that working from home has a lifeline for many of us, specifying that Rockstar Games needs to rethink their reckless decision making and engaging with their staff to find solutions and work for everyone. Another anonymous employee say they fear having to work late hours in the office, which would mean developers would miss out on spending time with our families. Further, the Independent Workers of Great Britain, a union that represents United UK developers, Rockstar North and Edinburgh, Scotland, is leading development on GTA 6, has also slammed Rockstar Games for the return to office move. The organization's chair, Austin Kilmore claimed to IGN in the same report that company management will pull the plug on remote access technology on April 15th, essentially forcing employees to come back to the office or else. He continued. The workers at IWGB Games workers unions at Rockstar are pushing for transparency over pay and promotions, a healthy and inclusive workspace culture, and work-life balance centered around what each worker needs. It is unacceptable that Rockstar leadership have gone back on their word and time and time again and have ignored the workers' request for basic working conditions. Workers across the industry are done with letting executives make reckless and harmful decisions, and the Rockstar workers are showing us the start of what's to come if they're continually ignored. There's no better time than now to join our union and push for this to be healthy and sustainable games industry. We know it can be. Kotaku has reached out to Rockstar Games for comment. Return to office mandates have been a hot button issue in the games industry since the pandemic upended long-standing ways of doing business. Work from home policies have opened the door for many folks to find employment at studios they might not have had otherwise, particularly disabled workers who can't always make it into the office. Rockstar Games is not the first developer to insist upon a return to office. Activision Blizzard demanded the same of its employees in February of 2023. I don't remember if I talked about that or not. Going on to say this, though, my first thoughts was, to be fair, there are people in the gaming industry, especially the higher ups, that make horrible decisions, like whoever greenlit that Suicide Squad, kill the Justice League.
Exactly.
When these games fail and nobody wants to buy them because they have these half-cocked ideas about live service games and milking the customer for all they want, and the customer, they realize the customer doesn't want it. Unfortunately, it is the employees who probably knew this was a bad idea that get canned, and the executives keep their money, keep their positions. But this, though, I kind of understand on one case where they're coming from with this game, because they've already had a trailer leak, I believe. And we've had, during the pandemic, we had two big leaks. One was for The Last of Us 2. The other, I think, was for Resident Evil Village, where stuff about the games were leaked online because, and I don't know if they have everything in-house. They can probably keep a tighter lid on things. But what's your thoughts?
My thought is it's bullshit. I really do. I don't care if it's productivity of your employees working from home, being able to trust your employees with security measures or whatever the case is. You have a bigger problem than whether or not they're in the office or they're working from home. You have hired people you can't trust. Now, if my boss were to come and
True.
the company that I'm working at right now, I took the job on the understanding that it was a work from home job. You know, I started out as a temp.
Right.
I guess I'm still technically a temp, but I mean, I'm working through a temp agency, and they said, you know, would you be willing to take this position? It'll be full time working from home. And I wasn't interested in full time at the time, but then when they said working from home, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And through the entire pandemic, I worked from home, and I said, this is friggin' brilliant. I'm getting paid full-time, you know, pay to literally get out of bed, go downstairs, turn on my computer, start working. I work for 8 hours. I turn off my computer. I turn around, and I'm on my regular computer playing games, watching YouTube, doing a stream, whatever. I have gained at least 2 hours every work day not having to commute, plus less wear and tear on my car and no gas being spent, right? Now, if they were to come back to me and say, okay, we want you to now start coming into the office, I'd say, then I'm done. That is not the job that I signed on for. I signed on with something that gave me these benefits, including my time and less gas and, you know, no commute and so forth. That was a big part of, in my mind, my compensation package. And if you don't think my productivity is there, that's a whole separate problem. And that would be the same problem whether I was in the office or I was at home. You know, and as far as the security goes, look, you sign NDAs, okay? I don't care if I'm in the office or I'm outside of the office. If I'm a security risk, I'm a security risk. You know, you should figure that out.
Yeah, but what if, like, Junior in the house decides, oh, I'm going to leak the Grand Theft Auto thing online, blah, blah. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, that is still your responsibility as
Okay.
an employee. That's part of, the whole work from home concept. But let us expect our adult employees to be adults and treat them like adults. This isn't freaking grade school. And it's really well past time companies get their heads out of their asses and micromanaging bullshit.
To be fair, you make a good point here in the fact that I think part of the problem with this industry and a lot of these businesses is they're allowing their employees to act like children in some ways. And so now they're not allowing them to have the responsibility of working from home in other ways. That could be what part of it is. Instead of just,
It's almost like you defund the cops and then you're shocked when you are overrun with crime. What the hell? Who could have expected that? You hire a bunch of immature children and then you can't count on them to work. Shocker! This is not a problem with working from home or not working from home.
Rockstar released Grand Theft Auto 5 in September 17, 2013. Ever since then, they have been shitting out DLCs for GTA 5. It is 2024
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a much bigger problem than any, work from home.
I'm going to say this, too. The main writer that worked on a lot of these games, Dan Houser, he left Rockstar, so he's not working on the writing for this. I'm not saying the game is going to be bad. I don't know.
Well, when you got somebody that highly placed leaving a company, it's not a healthy company. So that's another thing.
But we'll see.
To keep in mind.
By the way,
let me tell you something.
These DLCs, though, they've been for the online game, not for the main game. Right?
There is no longer any excuse in corporate America for making people come into an office if they are capable of working from home. If you're a doctor, if you are a fireman, yeah, you kind of need to go to where you got to fix a toilet. You got to go and leave and go and do the thing, right? If you are a programmer, a coder, a whatever, and you can work from home, then you should be doing it. Let's work smarter and not harder just to be an asshole company.
Well, you're sounding like Scrooge McDuck with the work smarter, not harder.
Asking management to treat their employees like adults may be asking too much from them. Then the company needs to go out of business. Get with you are a friggin' tech company. Act like it.
My dad's been given a hybrid of the lockdown. After lockdown, 2 days in the office and the rest of the week at home.
What's the point of that? What is the point of that? What is he capable of doing in the office that he is not capable of doing from home?
Well, maybe
okay,
maybe
fine.
he sits at his desk. Sorry, he sits at his desk and has a Zoom call.
Well,
I'm joking. I don't know.
And I would tell I would tell my company, if it was that kind of a situation, fine, you're going to compensate me the hour it costs me to drive in and the hour it costs me to drive back, and you're going to give me a stipend for my gas. Or just let me work from home and leave it at that.
Anyways, so again,
this isn't about lazy, entitled kids. This is about, again, intelligence.
True, but some of these, I have no idea what the culture is over at Rockstar now. Sometimes some of these employees don't always pull their weight at these companies.
Well, and that can be evaluated whether they work from home or work in the office.
Fair
if they're
enough.
not producing, you're not producing. If you don't start producing, you're gone. Write up, warning, you're fired. That's just how it works.
Yikes, you hear this? Retail was classified as essential during the lockdown. I was issued travel papers to drive to work. Did you hear Dr. Phil recently? Making the rounds?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
He kind of schooled those hens over at the
View.
The View, yeah.
He made a point. He's like, okay, so you're a doctor, you're essential. You work in a grocery store, you're essential. Teacher's not essential. You can do it from home. Remember that?
Yeah. When you have lost Dr. Phil, you've lost the narrative. You really have. It's not like he's some sort of right-wing loony.
He's just talking common sense. It's not even like he's talking political. It's just common sense.
Well, you talk common sense to the hens on the View, you may as well be talking a foreign language.
All right. I hope the gaming industry weathers this, and maybe my scaring you all over the crash, maybe that's not founded, but something just seems different this time around. And where the heck is Nintendo with their new console?
Oh, I have that comic.
You do?
I do.
How was it? This looked like a cool comic. That's why I picked the cover.
Okay, so this was an interesting pivot period in comic history, kind of going from the Silver Age into the Bronze Age, right? You had this change in for example, Superman's villain characters. You notice Lex Luthor is wearing that Lexor armor.
Which they still use, right? Yeah.
They still use it, and they find different ways to explain its origin and stuff. But he moves from the scientist, who's the brain versus the brawn, to now he wants to take on Superman, on his own terms. They changed Brainiac from being this, green alien from Colu or whatever the planet was with cybernetic implants to a full-on android body. Kind of looking like a Terminator. This was the time when they started putting out, Kenner started putting out the Superpowers action figures in 3 3/4 inch scale. This was a great time. This was when I was really getting into Superman. Was at this time. These were some of my first Superman comics, and what I was doing was I was buying them going forward, and then I was going and buying back issues, going back into the earlier 80s, into the 70s, even got into some of the 60s era. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, that was exciting. I was glad you pulled that one up.
I just thought it was a cool cover. I'm like, I'd like to see this in a movie. This is this is what I was talking about, the Superman movie. Can we see this in a movie? Superman fighting Lex Luthor in the special suit. That might have been interesting.
It was interesting because after this era, they went into the Crisis on Infinite Earths. They rebooted Superman with the John Byrne era. Lex Luthor went from being, the typical villain, mastermind to, evil business guy, right?
Corporate guy, yeah.
And the suits, that armor came up with, he had created this elite security team that used this armor. And that's where the suit continued from. And I'm like, that's an interesting way to keep that alive. That's kind of neat. Kind of a I guess you call it like an Iron Man sort of a concept.
It's interesting on Superman the animated series. They had someone working for LexCorp, and the man's name was John Henry Irons, and he was trying to build the suit. And then one of the villains stole, and then this guy steals the suit and starts doing damage. And John Henry Irons is like, I'm going to scrap this whole thing. He's like, I'm not doing this. Fell into bad hands. And Superman said, that suit in the right hands could be a force for good. Don't give up on it. That's what he told John Henry Irons. So, of course, he shows up as Steel later on the show, but
Yeah.
In fact, Michael Dorn played the voice of Steel on Superman, the animated series. James Gunn announced that February 29th marked the start of the filming on his new Superman movie, which will kick off the rebooted DC universe under the supervision of him and his DC Studios co-boss Peter Safran. Gunn also revealed that his movie, which had been titled Superman Legacy, is now simply called Superman. Overjoyed to be announcing the start of principal photography on Superman today, February 29th, which just so happens to be coincidentally and unplanned Superman's birthday. Gunn wrote in a caption to a photo of what appears to be a close-up of his versions of Superman's costume. When I finished the first draft of the script, I called the film Superman Legacy. By the time I locked the final draft, it was clear the title was Superman, he added, making our way to you July 2025. So yes, it will no longer be called Superman Legacy. It's now going to be called Superman, which I kind of made the argument for when I was on Mr. Matchstick stream, where we were doing our what we would do if we were rebooting the DC movie universe. And I said, just call the first Superman movie Superman, since it's never actually been used. Remember, the first Superman movie is called Superman the movie, not Superman. So
it was funny because in that that Superman dynamic graphics kind of thing, the Superman lettering would swoop up onto the screen, and they focused on the TM, which was Superman trademark, right? But they used it as though it meant the movie. I don't know. I just remember that for that little detail for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. What Samuel Proctor said? In the DC animated universe, Luthor transferred from businessman to supervillain to politician. That was funny on the DC animated universe when he transferred to being a politician. I was listening to the audio commentary, and they said when he was giving his speech about how he's not going to be in the business world anymore, there's no poetry anymore. They said that was based on some Warner exec that left.
That's
one of his
interesting.
speeches. And then he...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And then he said, well, what are you going to do now? And then he says, well, I was thinking about politics. And, of course, that's where the whole Lex Luthor running for president thing started coming into play. But
Yeah. And but that, like I was telling Samuel Proctor, that actually comes from the comics. He ran for president in the comics, which made and became president. And what was interesting was that put Superman in a really interesting dilemma. The executive of the United States, the guy in charge of law enforcement in the United States, is his arch enemy supervillain, right? That's a really weird dynamic. And do you know who Lex Luthor's vice president was?
No.
Quick trivia. Pete Ross, his buddy from high school.
No way.
Yep.
The one was on Smallville, right?
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's right. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Made for a very, very interesting dynamic.
Overjoyed to be announced. What was he? Was Pete Ross the governor of Kansas? And that's when Luthor went to him to join us. I don't know. What.
I actually don't remember that much of the details, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the storyline. That would make perfect sense. Yeah.
Overjoyed to be in that. Okay, so let me see. When I finished, let me see. David Cornsop, best known for supporting roles in Ryan Murphy shows such as Hollywood, is playing the eponymous superhero opposite the marvelous Miss Maisel, Emmy winner Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Nicholas Hoult is taking on the role of Superman's infamous villain Lex Luthor, while Gunn's cast also includes Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen, Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho, Eddie Gathagy as Mr. Terrific, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Isabel Mercat as Hawkgirl, and more.
Yeah, this is where it's getting to the point where I Mr. Matchstick said I think Gunn is going to make a fun movie at minimum. But here's the problem. This is the same thing we've said about so many other movies. Even if it's good, you're cramming way too damn many characters in.
I think if maybe they had just stuck with the Outsiders, that could have been interesting, right? If
Right.
maybe he needs their help at some point in the movie to stop Luthor or something, and these are like the outcast superheroes.
Or
That could have been interesting.
him in a mentoring position with them. I don't know. Whatever.
It's funny, like I said, my own DC Universe thing. I was going to be bringing the Outsiders in later on too, but whatever. I'm just saying. Hawkgirl, though. So you got Hawkgirl. You have Guy Gardner. Why is Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner?
Actually,
he's been playing Hal Jordan in the animated versions.
I get that, but his wit, his character,
he's funny,
his look actually is pretty darn Guy Gardner. I can kind of see it. So I can kind of see it.
I'm not condemning this movie just yet.
But honestly, I don't think you should be introducing Guy Gardner in a Superman movie. They should be rebooting a Green Lantern somehow, for crying out loud.
Well, what I also thought they could have done was had Hal Jordan in this movie, but then done the team up series be Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner, because I thought that would have been kind of interesting, because that dynamic would have been interesting, because they would not get along, because Jon Stewart's for kind of no nonsense, and Guy Gardner's a kind of a screw up. Is that right?
Well, and the dynamic that you do with the Green Lanterns is you treat them like space cops, right?
Yes.
So you have all of the dynamics that you would have in a cop film or a cop show,
We'll see.
And we'll see what comes of it.
We'll see.
Did you also see the release of the picture of his S symbol? So the new S symbol for Superman is going to be the Kingdom Come S, except instead of black, it's yellow. It's red and yellow like the traditional. So I guess we're supposed to assume this is the Superman of the Kingdom Come universe, except in the modern day rather than in the future.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. Didn't that Kingdom Come universe get dark?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. If that's what lays in the future, I'm not looking forward to this new Gunverse.
To play devil's advocate, the animated movies have been bringing tons of random characters an hour or less, and they managed it pretty well. I don't know what it is about the animated cartoons that they could do a lot plot.
They were just better written. I don't have that much faith in the movie industry. Really,
we'll see. I mean, James Gunn.
Oftentimes, those animated features were literally adapting comics.
Yeah, the ones we were doing later on. In fact, they were basically just saying, let's take this successful comic book and just make it into an animated feature on video. But we'll see. I don't know. It just I think, like I said, it would have been interesting if it had been the Outsiders, or maybe if Hal Jordan showed up. And then it should be a thing from outer space that they're going up against, right? If it's Hal Jordan, like maybe Brainiac's attacking the Earth, and Hal Jordan knows what Brainiac's been doing on other planets and is there to help Superman. I don't know. That could have been something, but I don't know. Oh well. Didn't they say the photo was fake? I don't know.
No, I was just starting to type out an answer. Here's the confusion. The S symbol that they put out was legit.
Okay.
The picture of Corn Sweat in the suit was a fake.
Okay.
However, it is based on a description of what the suit is apparently going to look like. So kind of legit, depending on how you look at it.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll bring you more Superman news as it unfolds. We'll see. I do agree with you, though. I do think the cast looks wise. It looks like they were good casting choices. I'll say that. So, and actually, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor might be interesting. You last saw him in Renfield, right? So. Oh
yeah, that's right. That's right.
So he's gonna be playing Lex Luthor. He's gonna be young Lex, but it could work. Of course, I don't know how young Nicholas Hoult is at this point. I tend to think people are younger than they actually are, because Hollywood tends to hire good-looking actors, so they don't look as old. But
okay, I pasted in reverse. Sorry about that.
What'd you do? It's okay.
I posted the link.
This I thought you might want us to cover, just because.
Yeah.
This is rather you had done a whole thing on gun safety when we first
Yes,
broke
I
the story
agree with
a
you,
year ago.
Sashi. Why does Alec Baldwin keep popping up? He needs to just quit the industry at this point.
This is let's go ahead and Russ set footage shows Alec Baldwin rushing the crew, saying, "One more right away, let's reload!" Explanation point. The director called action, and Alec Baldwin emerged from a wooden shed and advanced toward the camera, firing shots from an old pistol. As soon as he heard cut, the actor wanted to do the take again. One more, right away, Baldwin shouted. Let's reload. Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the film's 24-year-old armorer, hurried to put more blanks into his gun. Baldwin was visibly impatient. Here we go. Come on, he said. We should have two guns, and both were reloading. Gutierrez Reed is now on trial for the fatal accident that occurred later on the set of Rust on Thursday morning. Jurors saw outtakes from the film in which Baldwin could be seen using his pistol to point as he gave instructions to the crew.
Oh, my God.
The videos seen publicly for the first time are likely to be played again at Baldwin's manslaughter trial in July. Both he and the armorer are accused of criminal negligence in the death of the film cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
No, Mr. Matchstick. This is still the same case. Yeah.
These trials take a while. Yeah. Prosecutors have alleged that Baldwin was responsible both for firing the gun that killed Hutchins and for management failures in his role as producer. Baldwin's defense has argued that he was a creative producer and was not a supervisory role. Keep in mind that I am also going to say, Mr. Matchstick, that this proceeding was stymied by the Baldwin defense case, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Weren't they trying something to get him off and it didn't work? But
Yeah.
it led to a delay in this. What do you think of that footage that came out? That's pretty.
If you are anyone that, whether you own firearms or you have any enthusiasm for firearms, you see stuff like that and you just cringe, just like so many of us, and you'll hear me complaining about it too. You see it in the movies, a lack of trigger discipline. By that, when you're holding a gun, you never have your finger on the trigger. The way you always see in Hollywood movies, you have your finger up on the side and you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're pulling it. And that's how you treat every firearm, even if it has blanks, even if it's a toy, even if it's whatever, because it's just the way you do it. And you see him pointing with the gun. Oh my God, you're a friggin' moron.
It really sounds like he is not following proper safety protocols. You don't rush loading a gun. At least not on a movie set. Come on. This is, I don't know.
Actually, you don't even do it in a war zone.
No.
You think it through, you pay attention. If you were in a war zone, his comment about having a second gun that you're loading while someone else is firing, that might be appropriate. Not when you're on the set of a movie. You fire that shot for a scene, then you put it down, you step away, let the armorer do her job. You insufferable asshole. There's somebody dead because of you.
Yeah. So I don't think this looks too good for Alec Baldwin, but we'll see what happens as the trial keeps going on. This is usually the point if you're watching a television show and this sort of thing got shown that the defense would be going nuts at this point, right?
Yes, and Sashi brings up Brandon Herrera did a whole video on the weapon he was using and how Brandon was saying what he was saying couldn't happen. This whole idea you cannot have it go off without firing it. He had to have done something. And we all knew it before he did the video, but he was doing what he's supposed to do as a YouTuber, particularly a 2A video,
Yeah.
So, this guy just aggravates me. Considering what he said to that, online to that cop.
Yeah.
How does it feel to accidentally murder an innocent person? Well, you can answer that question now.
Wow. I'm just saying it does not look good for Baldwin here. Okay. Have you vented?
Here we go. I'm going to have something else to vent about in a minute, aren't I?
All right. And probably with the WDA Pro, I'm just going to do a quick summary of what he said instead of reading it from the article. All right. Because it's getting late.
Yeah.
The Omen prequel star says it's about effing time women dominate the horror genre.
Yeah,
Oh
we've
boy.
never had women dominate. You know, we didn't have Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
I know.
We didn't have Ellen Ripley in Alien. You know, these women, you know, were never
Dominating the horror genre since the
crying
70s.
out loud.
Anyway, starring the upcoming female-led horror movie, The First Omen, Nell Tiger Free thinks it's high time that women are properly represented in the genre. It's about fucking time. Free tells Total Film on our new issue out this Friday, which features Roadhouse on the cover. Unfortunately, you know, it took for the rest of the world to catch up with what was so blatantly obvious, which is that women know what's scary, and it's nicer that we're expanding from women only to being utilized in horror movies to run with their tits out or get cut in half by somebody. I don't know what she's talking about.
We haven't seen
Has she watched anything in the last 40 years?
Movies. Yeah, in like the last 30, 35 years, exactly.
At first, I thought she was talking about female directors, but we've had plenty of women directing horror movies in recent years, too, so this is not new.
Yeah.
Directed by Arkasha Stevenson, The First Omen stars Game of Thrones actor Free as a young American woman who is sent to Rome to begin her life as a nun. However, when she arrives, she encounters something sinister that will cause her to question her own faith. The 2024 film acts as a prequel to the 1976 horror film The Omen, directed by Richard Donner. The classic follows an American couple who adopt a little boy in Rome, only to discover he might just be the spawn of Satan. Yes, I know. And we're not, the whole thing went into whole. These articles always try to summarize The Omen for people who've never seen it, too. And I'm like, I'm not copying that. This is ridiculous to me, though, because I honestly don't know what she's talking about. My favorite horror movie of the aughts, that's the first decade of this century, was The Descent. Yeah. Entirely female cast, no men in the movie. Yeah, and I thought it was the best horror movie of that decade.
Again, these fourth wave feminist, you know, modern wokosos that want to reinvent the wheel, that want to ignore history and say that they are the first generation to ever do whatever. You know, they're the first women to ever woman.
Yeah. There's a trope about a little trope revolving around the last woman outsmarting the killer in a slasher film.
Yeah.
The final girl. Yeah.
Which is, that whole concept of the final girl is, if you dig into it, there's a great deal of symbolism to it, right? It's that it's a very Eve over the devil kind of thing, right? Or Madonna crushing the head of the serpent, you know? I mean,
interesting.
That could be a whole separate.
It's a whole nother stream talking about. I remember seeing the Omen rewatch stream. Yeah, when Ryan Roger Athay was on that night. I remember that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
We did a rewatch of the Omen. That was when you got over 666 subscribers. I remember that was your.
Yep.
Oh man, I don't know about this movie now. I might have given it a look, but after this actress run her mouth, I'm over it. Shut your mouth. You're not doing the movie any favors. Why don't you talk about why your character is interesting? Why we should want to follow her on this horrific journey instead of yelling about
this kind of marketing drives
a couple slasher
away.
movies made in the early 80s that have no relevance right now to what we're doing now. This is just ridiculous.
You know, I'm sorry all of that offended you. How did you even get into acting if this was such a problem for you?
I don't think she's watched any horror movies. I think she's just running her mouth. She heard something some feminist said somewhere and just is repeating it. Okay, moving on to
Speaking of the woke in Hollywood and entertainment, yeah.
I was going to read from this article. It's getting late, though. I'm basically going to summarize it, okay?
Yeah.
The main point I wanted to bring up from this article, and this is, of course, from WWW Pro. He has a YouTube channel, also has that parkplace.com where he posts articles like this. He had some insiders telling him about the whole DEI initiative. They know it's losing money over there at Amazon. This was my basic point. Like things like Rings of Power, Wheel of Time, they know it's not being a hit, but they're still pulling through with it because they're true believers. But also, this was the more interesting part of the article because they brought up the Terminal List and shows like Reacher, which aren't really woke series. Okay, they're like normal series, and it's not about them making every series woke, which is what Disney does. Amazon will instead put a lot of money into a woke series, but then they'll have a couple of non-woke series that will get views to offset the cost. So they'll make money off of those whereas they'll have the woke stuff that they know doesn't make any money, but is at least pulling the message. That was my impression of what I read from this article. That's kind of disturbing too, right? Because it's like, I know Reacher is not a woke series. It's a normal show like we would have gotten, 10, 15 years ago. But then you have stuff like Rings of Power and, Wheel of Time. And I just think it's interesting that they figure they can still get their DEI score by doing some shows that are woke and then just keep the viewers watching Prime by having stuff on there that isn't woke. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, I don't know if that's more disturbing than what Disney does, actually.
It almost seems more insidious.
Yes. Because it's like, what am I doing by watching Reacher? Because Reacher's not a woke show, but if I'm watching it, am I now funding other woke series because I'm watching that? I don't know. It's a moral conundrum there. Because you want to support the non-woke stuff, but now it's almost making it like you're supporting the non-woke stuff is now funding the woke stuff.
Yeah, good point.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's a head scratcher. I'm sorry. I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah.
Now I'm sorry about the upcoming. Oh, I'm sorry, Sin's Corner. Look, it still might be a good movie. It's just that we have young actors that run their mouth when they shouldn't, and I don't know why they do it.
Look, it could very well be. Well, see, I'm not sure I even want to make this statement about Dune 2. I was going to say I had some real serious problems with some of the BS that the actress playing Lady Jessica was spewing in the ramp up to the first movie. Saw the first movie. I'm like, okay, everything looks good here. Some of the things I'm hearing about the second one, I'm not too keen on. I'm starting to lose a little bit of faith in Denis Villeneuve. Please correct me if I got that wrong this time, Sin. Just saying, because I don't intend to. But
yeah, but that about wraps us up. But I'm just trying to say, though, you know what, Sin's Corner, if you've not seen this movie, The Invitation, I don't remember the director's name, but it did have a female director. It was actually a rather creepy horror movie in the Dinner Party from Hell genre of horror. Apparently that is a genre.
There you go.
My only complaint about it was that it was shot in HD video, where I thought it really could have been better if they had used film, but other than that, I thought it was a pretty gripping, terrifying movie. And again, female director, the woman who directed Aeon Flux.
Yeah.
Which was a terrible adaptation. Of course, we learned later that she didn't get her cut of the movie out that she wanted and that the studio interfered.
Which is constantly a problem. Yeah.
Yes. I wish, too, they would just let the directors go back. I mean, they did with Richard Donner in his Superman 2 cut, but they don't do that often.
True. But that was because the fans demanded it. This was long before the Snyder Cut and the Snyder Bros. The Donner Cut, was the template for that. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's, it was an interesting take. There's still things I didn't like about that cut. It's like there is no perfect cut of Superman 2. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of damage done when they removed him and Lester started, effing it over. And some of the footage of what Donner wanted to do just doesn't exist,
Apparently there's a third cut of Superman 2, which was a television cut with added footage, which isn't theatrical.
It was the television cut and other cuts from around the world that fans on the internet got together and started splicing together to make their version of the Donner cut, and were sharing it on the internet. And when Warner Brothers sent a cease and desist, the fans said, look, just put this out. The fans want it, we'll pay for it. We're not trying to steal anything from you. And that really is the story of how the Donner cut came to exist.
Yep. I have it on Blu-ray in a set with Superman the movie and Superman Returns.
Yeah.
I didn't get the full-on set on Blu-ray. I got them on DVD. And I have to tell you something. Those Superman movie DVDs I had, something happened to them. I don't know if it was disc rot. They stopped working.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So then I rebought them on Blu-ray. At least I got the three main ones. Of course, I have issues with Superman Returns, but that's a topic for another time.
I might have to hit up Netter to get me a collection of the Blu-rays, because that's a series that I need the good stuff. You know what I mean?
There is a very interesting Blu-ray set you can get of the first Superman movie, which comes with the special edition that Donner put out, the not theatrical version with more
Yeah.
footage, and then it contains a television cut version that's like 4 hours,
Oh, that's nice.
and they come in a double pack. You may want to look into that one too. All right, this wraps us up for tonight, though. I did want to mention, though, head over onto Deleted Scenes channel for The Other Side of Midnight.
Yeah, there might be a sassy, overweight old Italian guy there.
Yes, well, I have to get up early tomorrow, but I'll see if I can at least listen in for a little bit. We'll see. But
there you go.
yes, I have to. It's my early shift. They switch every other Monday. I'll do an earlier shift and I'll do a later one. Why can't people keep their comments to themselves? Why they just appreciate opportunity to work on the film? Because not everyone given that. Yeah, especially when you're a young actress who, with all due respect, you played one of the Baratheon children that got killed off in the season you were on. Just please, just you have an opportunity. Just talk about what the movie's about and why we should want to watch it instead of yelling about the horror genre. You don't. It's this thing where they want to yell at the fans.
Well, it's no different.
The fan base that's supposed to be going to see your movie.
It's no different from Snow Off-White. talking about how terrible and evil and wrong the film was that she is remade.
That they're doing the remake of.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Other Side of Midnight. Check it out at 5 past midnight Eastern Standard Time, 5 past 11 Central Standard Time.
Yep.
Going on tomorrow. Anything going on?
Not yet, but I am planning on launching my Monday night stream. I'm going to start doing Monday night at the movies with Last Call. In fact, right now on my Discord and MeWe group and in my community tab, I am asking for suggestions. What movies would you like to see me do for Monday night at the movies for my first film? In fact, I've got some great suggestions already. Kyle Collins said Halloween or the Temple of Doom. Samuel Proctor has a great idea. Troy from 2004. That'd
be a good
funny.
one to start with.
That's funny. I like that. But the Bosco scenario had a good suggestion too. The Usual Suspects. So those are the 3 suggestions I've gotten so far. If anyone has any others, go drop them, and I'll probably create a poll to find out what you guys would like to see. Sure. Going forward, I'm probably going to be doing rewatches of don't be surprised if I don't do David Lynch's Dune, possibly the fan edit, especially fan edits. I might do some fan edits because you don't have any access to them anywhere else. And Tropic Thunder might be another good one. Yeah. But if there's something that's topical, maybe we talk about on Geeky Geezers, I might follow it up on, the following day with the rewatch or whatever. Or maybe we talk about it somewhere else during the week. That's my plan going forward. Gotcha. So Mondays. Yeah.
So let's see what else is going on. Tuesday, we have Sparkwood and 21.
Live from Sparkwood and 21. We are entering the second half of season 2 of Twin Peaks. That's been a very popular watch party. A lot of people enjoying it. Hope you can join us for the rewatch and the deep dive. Of course, I provide the episode on Cosme, so you can watch along with us. And then after that, if I haven't mentioned this to Deleted Scenes yet, if he's okay with it, I was asked back to Rancor Steve's Manorama over on Rumble. Apparently, he got great feedback. People liked me. They really, really liked me.
Wow.
So I'm so encouraged by that. I'd like to be able to do that. So if Deleted Scenes is okay with that, I'll talk to him about it in a minute or two. And if that happens, I will be dropping the link in my community tab and in Discord and on MeWe, so you guys can follow me over there.
Tuesday night at 8:30 though for Sparkwood and 21, and keep an eye out on us Troy's community tab for
that'll be 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Okay. Yeah.
So let's see here though. We have mystery movie night at the Regal will be on Monday as well with Sin's Corner, and I wonder what the mystery movie will be this Monday. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's not like they can tell you because they don't know either.
But yeah, I'm thinking though with this new episode of Twin Peaks, it's the new villain will be Flappy. At least I have that suspicion.
Flappy's a tragic story.
Waiting in the wings to reveal the true terror of this series will be Flappy.
Well, I think the owls are not what they seem, and Flappy is bothered by that. Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
so. All right, and then Thursday will be Thursday Things. Will be Netter have a special guest?
Yes, she will, and unfortunately, I can't remember who it was because Netter's stepped away, and I can't ask her. But always
someone
always tune into Netter's Network on Thursdays because we always want to bring you highlight on the YouTubers that we enjoy. Because if you enjoy us, you'll probably enjoy the YouTubers that we enjoy. So. Thursday, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, over on Netter's Network.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, never mind. She lined up a lot of events. Okay, I was trying to.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's hard to go and check and see because she's got them planned.
Oh wait, I think I might have it. Hold on. Netter's Network Thursday Things was Sci-Fi Mombi.
Was this?
And on the 16th, okay, she may not have someone yet, but maybe she'll have one by the time the stream starts.
Okay.
All right. And then what else is coming up? We have Friday night. What is our topic for Friday night on Friday Night Last Call?
Friday night is going to be a manly talk, man-to-man with Rancor Steve, whom I was just talking about. Another reason why it would really be a good idea if I can make it to his stream on Tuesday, because he will be joining me at Last Call, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Friday. We're going to talk about manly things.
Manly things are
a little bit of that toxic masculinity we all hate, right?
Yes, I suppose so. Action Theater presents with Jedi Bill, Predator, Thursday, 3 p.m. Thank you, Deleted Scenes. And also Saturday, what will be the movie with Big Al?
Gorgo from 19-something or other. Don't remember.
Giant monster movie.
Giant, yeah, I guess you could call it a British kaiju with special guest Evelyn Hampton, friend of all of our channels.
Cool. All right, and that'll bring us back to Sunday for Deleted Scenes Unscripted. We'll be returning on this coming Sunday, and then we'll be, unless he's doing a different thing for Oscars, and then we will be on with Geeky Geezers, where I'm sure we'll talk about Sweet Baby Inc., but also other topics in geek news.
Absolutely. So hope to see you guys over on the other side of midnight, and yes, unscripted and not so. Yeah. So tonight, actually in 1/2 hour, see you guys over there. And if you have any suggestions for movies that you'd like to see on Monday Night at the Movies, make sure you go over to my community tab, drop those in. I will start a poll very shortly for what we will be watching the following Monday. And probably all the suggestions you make will probably work themselves in over successive weeks. So
cool. All right. Catch you all later.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.